Serena Walker wiped the sweat from her forehead as she hung up the phone. The hospital bills were piling up, and her mother's health wasn't getting any better. At 25, Serena had put her dreams of becoming a teacher on hold to care for her mum, Gloria. Now, with Gloria confined to bed rest, they were about to lose the only income they had. "Who was that baby?" Gloria called weakly from the bedroom of their small apartment in Mobile, Alabama. Serena took a deep breath before entering her mother's room. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains, highlighting her mother's frail figure in the bed. "It was Mrs. Peterson," Serena said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "She wanted to know if you could clean the Hartford mansion tomorrow." Gloria tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "I told her I would. I can't lose that job, Serena. The Hartfords pay more for one day than I make in a week at other houses." "Mom, you can barely walk. The doctor said you need complete bed rest for at least 2 weeks. Gloria's eyes filled with tears. "We can't afford 2 weeks, baby. The rent is due, and your part-time job at the diner barely covers groceries." Serena held her mother's hand, feeling the rough skin from years of cleaning other people's homes. "I'll go," she said suddenly. "I'll go in your place." "The Hartfords? No, baby. They're different. Especially since the scandal with their company last year. That son of theirs, Damian, he's particular about who enters that house." "Mom, it's just cleaning. I've helped you before. I know what to do." Gloria shook her head. "You don't understand. Men like Damian Hartford don't like changes to their routine, and you've got your night classes." "Which I can skip for one day," Serena interrupted. "Mom, please, let me do this for you." After a long pause, Gloria nodded. "My uniform is hanging in the closet. The bus leaves at 6 a.m. The next morning, Serena stood at the gates of the Hartford estate, her heart pounding. She had borrowed her mother's shoes, practical black flats worn at the edges, and the uniform felt stiff and unfamiliar. The mansion loomed ahead, a massive structure of stone and glass perched on a hill overlooking the bay. "You must be Gloria," said a stern-looking woman who opened the side entrance. "I'm Mrs. Peterson, the housekeeper. Mr. Hartford is working from home today, so try to be quiet." Before Serena could explain who she really was, Mrs. Peterson thrust a list into her hands. "These are the rooms that need attention. Start with the library. Mr. Hartford will be in his office until noon." Serena nodded, too intimidated to correct the woman who was already walking away. With a deep breath, she gathered her cleaning supplies and headed toward the library. The house was like nothing she had ever seen. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, paintings that probably cost more than her entire life savings. She moved carefully, afraid to break anything. The library was vast, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and leather chairs that looked like no one had ever sat in them. Serena started dusting, moving methodically as her mother had taught her. She was on a stepladder, reaching for a high shelf, when she heard the door open. "You're not Gloria." The deep voice startled her, making her lose her balance. She wobbled on the ladder, and suddenly strong hands were steadying her waist. Serena found herself looking down into the most intense blue eyes she'd ever seen. "I'm sorry," she stammered, quickly climbing down. "I'm Serena, Gloria's daughter. My mother is sick, so I came in her place today." Damian Hartford was taller than she expected, with dark hair and a shadow of stubble on his jaw. He wore expensive-looking casual clothes, a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up and dark pants. At 31, his face showed the weariness of someone who carried heavy burdens. "Mrs. Peterson didn't mention a replacement," he said, his voice controlled but not unkind. "I'm sorry. I tried to tell her, but she assumed I was my mother." Damian studied her for a moment. "Is Gloria all right?" The concern in his voice surprised Serena. "She needs bed rest. Her back. Years of cleaning have taken a toll." He nodded slowly. "I see. Well, carry on then, Serena." She expected him to leave, but instead, he wandered to one of the shelves, pulling out a book. "You don't look like a cleaner," he remarked. Serena didn't know how to respond. "I'm not usually. I work at Rosie's Diner and take night classes at the community college, but we need the money, so—" "Night classes? What are you studying?" "Education. I want to be a teacher." Something in his expression changed. "Noble profession." Serena returned to her dusting, uncomfortable under his gaze. She noticed a collection of framed photos on a side table, covered in dust as if they'd been forgotten. One showed a younger Damian with an older couple. His parents, she guessed. "These haven't been dusted in a while," she said, carefully picking one up. Damian's jaw tightened. "I told Gloria to leave those alone." "Oh, I'm sorry." She quickly put the frame down. "No, he sighed. "It's fine, they're just reminders of another time." Serena nodded, understanding more than he knew. There were photos in her apartment she couldn't look at either, her father, before he walked out on them 10 years ago. She moved to another section, humming softly as she worked, a habit she'd picked up from her mother. "That song," Damian said suddenly. "What is it?" Serena blushed. "Sorry, I didn't realize I was humming. It's just an old gospel song my grandmother used to sing." "It's nice." He paused. "Would you like some tea or coffee?" The question caught her off guard. I should keep working. It's almost lunchtime. You're entitled to a break." Before she could respond, he was already walking toward the door. "Kitchen's down the hall, come when you're ready." Serena stood frozen, duster in hand. This wasn't how today was supposed to go. She was here to clean, get paid, and leave, not have tea with Damian Hartford, the reclusive billionaire her mother had warned her about. 20 minutes later, curiosity got the better of her. She found her way to the kitchen, where Damian was placing 2 mugs on the marble island. "I wasn't sure if you preferred tea or coffee," he said. "Tea is fine, thank you." Serena sat awkwardly on one of the high stools. "How long has your mother worked here?" he asked, sliding a mug toward her. "About 5 years, I think. She started after my father left." Damian nodded. "She's very thorough, reliable." "She's the hardest worker I know," Serena said proudly. A moment of silence fell between them as they sipped their tea. Serena noticed a newspaper on the counter, the headline reading, "Hartford Enterprises recovers after scandal, stock prices rising." Damian followed her gaze and frowned. "Don't believe everything you read." "I don't," she said simply. He studied her again as if trying to figure out a puzzle. "Most people can't wait to ask about the scandal, about what happened to my family's company." Serena shrugged. "It's not my business." "That's refreshing," he almost smiled. "So, education. What age do you want to teach?" "Elementary school. I love how children that age see the world. Everything is still possible to them." For the first time, his expression softened. "My mother was a teacher before she married my father." "Really? What did she teach?" "Literature." His eyes drifted to the window. "She gave it up when they got married. My father thought it wasn't appropriate for the wife of Richard Hartford to work." Serena frowned. "That doesn't seem fair." "Life rarely is," he said, his voice hardening again, "especially in my world." The kitchen suddenly felt too intimate, too personal. Serena stood up. "I should get back to work. There's still a lot to do." Damian checked his watch. "Of course. I have calls to make anyway." As she turned to leave, he called after her. "Serena, thank you for the conversation. It's been a while since I've had one that didn't involve business or scandal." She nodded, unsure how to respond, and hurried back to her cleaning cart. The afternoon passed quickly. Serena cleaned the living room, dining room, and several bathrooms, all while trying to process her strange encounter with Damian Hartford. He was nothing like she'd expected. Not the cold, demanding rich man her mother had described. She was cleaning the hallway when she overheard voices from Damian's office, his door slightly ajar. "Damian, you can't keep hiding in this house forever," a woman's voice said sharply. "The company needs a public face, especially after what your father did." "I'm not hiding, Rebecca. I'm working. There's a difference. The board is getting impatient. We need to show that Hartford Enterprises has changed, that we're not the same company that nearly collapsed under scandal, and parading me around at charity events will accomplish that." Damian's voice was bitter. "It's a start. You're young, handsome, single. I'm not a puppet, Rebecca. I won't be used to distract from what happened. Your father's mistakes aren't your responsibility, but fixing them is. That's what it means to be a Hartford." Serena moved away, uncomfortable with eavesdropping, but the conversation stayed with her as she continued working. At 5 o'clock, Mrs. Peterson appeared. "Time to finish up. Mr. Hartford likes the house quiet by 6. Serena nodded, gathering her supplies. As she was putting away the last of the cleaning products, Damian appeared in the hallway. "Leaving?" he asked. "Yes, I'm all done for today." He walked her to the side entrance. "Will you be back next week, or will Gloria be recovered by then?" "I'm not sure. The doctor said 2 weeks, but my mom is stubborn. She doesn't like missing work." Damian reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Her payment for today." Serena took it, noticing how thick it felt. "Thank you. There's a little extra," he said, as if reading her mind. "For her medical expenses." Pride flared in Serena's chest. "We don't need charity, Mr. Hartford." "It's not charity. It's appreciation. Your mother has been reliable for years, and I've never properly acknowledged that." Serena wanted to refuse, but the image of unpaid hospital bills on their kitchen table stopped her. "Thank you," she said again, this time meaning it. As she turned to leave, Damian spoke again. Serena, if Gloria needs more time to recover, I wouldn't mind if you came back. She looked at him, surprised. Even though I knocked over that vase in the living room? A hint of a smile touched his lips. Even though. On the bus ride home, Serena opened the envelope and gasped. It contained 3 times what her mother usually made for a day's work. Beneath the cash was a note written in elegant handwriting for Gloria's recovery, and perhaps a few textbooks for a future teacher. DH. Serena stared at the note, a mixture of emotions swirling inside her. Gratitude, confusion, and something else she couldn't quite name. She thought of Damian's intense blue eyes, the way he had listened to her, really listened, when she talked about teaching. "You're being ridiculous," she whispered to herself. He was just being nice. But as the bus pulled into her neighborhood, she couldn't help wondering if she would see him again. "He gave you how much?" Gloria exclaimed, sitting up in bed as Serena counted out the money. "And this note," Serena added, showing her mother the elegant handwriting. Gloria's expression was a mixture of surprise and concern. "Damian Hartford wrote you a personal note and asked you to come back? Only if you're not better by next week," Serena clarified, putting the money in their emergency jar. "I told him you might be stubborn about going back to work." "Serena, listen to me." Gloria grabbed her daughter's hand. "Men like Damian Hartford don't do things without a reason. I've cleaned for rich folks my whole life. They don't see people like us, not really." "He seemed different," Serena said defensively. "He asked about my studies, about you. He was kind." "Kind doesn't mean anything when there's that much money involved," Gloria sighed. "Just be careful, baby. I've seen too many girls get their hearts broken by men who see them as temporary entertainment." "Mom, it wasn't like that at all. He barely even looked at me." But Gloria wasn't convinced. "Promise me you'll be careful if you go back there." "I promise," Serena said, kissing her mother's forehead. "Now take your medicine and get some rest." Later that night, as Serena sat at their small kitchen table, studying for her child psychology exam, her mind kept drifting back to the Hartford mansion, to the forgotten family photos covered in dust, to Damian's haunted blue eyes when he mentioned his mother giving up teaching. "You're not what I expected," he had said as she was leaving. "What did you expect?" she had asked. His answer had stayed with her, someone who wouldn't see the cracks. Serena wasn't sure what he meant, but something told her that Damian Hartford was a man surrounded by broken things, some visible, others hidden beneath expensive suits and cold formality. She closed her textbook and looked at her mother's worn shoes by the door. Tomorrow she would return to her normal life, classes, the diner, taking care of her mom. The Hartford mansion would once again be just a place her mother cleaned, but as she got ready for bed, Serena couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed today, that somehow by walking in her mother's shoes, she had stepped onto a path she never expected. And despite her mother's warnings, a small part of her hoped she would have to go back next week. Damian Hartford stood at the window of his study, watching as Serena walked down the long driveway to the waiting bus. There was something about her, something genuine in a world where everything felt manufactured. His phone rang, pulling him from his thoughts. The caller ID showed his sister's name. "What is it, Elena?" he answered. "The charity gala is next Friday. Please tell me you're coming this time." Damian sighed. "I have work to do." "You always have work to do," Elena said, exasperation clear in her voice. "It's been a year, Damian. You can't keep hiding from the world because of what Dad did." "I'm not hiding." "Really, when was the last time you left that house for something other than a board meeting?" He didn't answer. "That's what I thought," Elena continued. "Look, I know it's been hard. The scandal, Dad's heart attack taking over the company, but you need to start living again." Damian's eyes drifted to the family photo Serena had tried to dust earlier, the one he'd told Gloria to leave alone. It showed happier times, before his father's fraud was exposed, before the family name became synonymous with corruption. "I'll think about it," he said finally. "That's all I ask." Elena's voice softened. "Oh, and Damian, Rebecca mentioned you were unusually pleasant during your call today. Anything happened to improve your mood?" He thought of Serena's gentle humming, the way she'd frowned at the dusty family photos as if offended on his behalf that they'd been neglected. "No," he lied. "Nothing happened." After hanging up, Damian walked to the library. The room smelled different, like lemons and something else. A subtle floral scent. Serena's perfume, perhaps. He ran his fingers along the shelf she had been dusting when he found her. The house felt different somehow. Less like a mausoleum and more like a home. Damian shook his head, dismissing the thought. He was being ridiculous. She was just the cleaner's daughter, filling in for a day, nothing more. But as he returned to his office, He found himself hoping that Gloria Walker might need a bit more time to recover after all. The week passed slowly. Serena worked double shifts at the diner to make up for the classes she'd missed, studied late into the night, and cared for her mother, whose back pain seemed to be improving but not quickly enough. Mrs. Peterson called, Gloria said on Thursday evening. She wants to know if I'm coming tomorrow, or if you'll be filling in again. Serena tried to ignore the flutter in her stomach. What did you tell her? That I need one more week. The doctor says I shouldn't push it. Gloria studied her daughter's face. You seem excited. I'm not excited, Serena protested. It's just, the money will help with your medicine. Gloria didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Just remember what I said, baby. Be careful. The next morning, Serena was at the Hartford estate by 7 a.m. This time she wore her own shoes, simple black flats, newer than her mother's but still modest. The uniform felt less stiff after being washed, and she had tied her hair back neatly. Mrs. Peterson met her at the door. Mr. Hartford left instructions. He wants you to start with the library again, then his office. His office? Serena asked, surprised. Her mother had never been allowed to clean Damian's private workspace. That's what he said. Mrs. Peterson handed her a list. He's at a breakfast meeting but should be back by 10. Serena started in the library, taking extra care with the books and dusting each shelf thoroughly. She found herself paying special attention to the family photos, carefully removing each frame, wiping it clean and returning it to its exact position. She was arranging fresh flowers in a vase when she heard the door open. Turning, she saw Damian standing there, dressed in a dark suit that made his eyes look even bluer. You came back, he said, his voice betraying a hint of surprise despite his instructions to Mrs. Peterson. Mom's doctor extended her rest period, Serena explained, putting down the flowers. I hope that's okay. More than okay. He loosened his tie, looking tired. How is she doing? Better, but stubborn. She wants to come back to work too soon. Damian nodded. Dedication runs in the family, I see. Serena smiled, feeling strangely comfortable despite the luxury surrounding them. I finished in here. Mrs. Peterson said you wanted your office cleaned next. Yes, if you don't mind. It's been neglected lately. She followed him down the hall, conscious of the distance he maintained between them, professional, appropriate. His office was spacious but cluttered, with papers spread across a massive desk and coffee cups left on various surfaces. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the bay. Sorry about the mess, he said, gathering some papers. I've been working on a new direction for the company. It's fine, my apartment looks worse during finals week. A small smile tugged at his lips. I'll be down the hall if you need anything. Once alone, Serena surveyed the room. It was the space of a man who spent too many hours working, comfortable but impersonal, except for a single photo on his desk. She picked it up carefully. It showed a much younger Damian, with a beautiful woman who had his same blue eyes. That's my mother, Damian said from the doorway, making Serena jump. Sorry, I forgot some files. She's beautiful, Serena said, setting the frame down gently. You have her eyes. That's what everyone says. He walked over and picked up the photo. She died when I was 16. Cancer. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. He put the photo down. She would have liked you, I think. The comment surprised her. Why do you say that? She valued honesty, authenticity, and you don't pretend. Serena wasn't sure how to respond. I should get back to cleaning. Damian nodded, grabbed the files he needed, and left her alone again. As she worked, Serena found herself wondering about the man whose space she was cleaning. The newspaper articles painted him as cold, calculating, the son who had stepped in to save the family business after his father's fraudulent dealings came to light. But the Damian she was seeing seemed different, haunted, yes, but also thoughtful. She was emptying his trash when a magazine caught her eye. It was open to a society page showing Damian at some function, looking uncomfortable beside a stunning blonde woman. The caption read, Damian Hartford with fashion designer Rebecca Winters. Romance blooming after scandal? Serena quickly threw the magazine away, telling herself it was none of her business. Of course, someone like Damian would be linked to beautiful, successful women. What had she expected? She was finishing up when Damian returned. Much better, he said, looking around the now tidy office. Thank you. Just doing my job, she replied, gathering her supplies. Have you had lunch? He asked suddenly. Not yet. I was going to eat after I finished the downstairs bathrooms. Would you join me? When she hesitated, he added, I had my chef prepare enough for 2. It seems a shame to waste it. Every warning her mother had given her flashed through Serena's mind, but something in Damian's expression, A vulnerability behind the confident exterior made her nod. "Okay, thank you." He led her to a sunny breakfast room where 2 places were set at a small table. The meal was simple but elegant: sandwiches, fruit, and a light soup. "Your chef made sandwiches?" Serena asked, trying to lighten the mood. Damian actually smiled. "He wanted to make lobster thermidor. I thought that might be excessive for lunch." They ate in surprisingly comfortable silence for a few minutes before Damian spoke again. "Tell me more about your teaching plans. What made you want to become a teacher?" Serena felt herself relax as she talked about her passion for education, about wanting to make a difference in children's lives. Damian listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions. "My mother had the same passion," he said when she finished. "Even after she stopped teaching formally, she volunteered at literacy programs. My father never understood it. Why not? He measured everything by profit margins, couldn't see the value in work that didn't generate revenue." Bitterness crept into his voice. The great Richard Hartford, financial genius. Turns out his genius included cooking the books and defrauding investors. "That must have been hard for you," Serena said quietly, taking over after that. Damian looked surprised, as if he wasn't used to sympathy. "Everyone wanted to know if I was involved, if I knew what he was doing. The truth is, I didn't want to know. I ignored the signs because it was easier. But you stayed. You're trying to fix things. Someone had to." He shrugged. "Elena, my sister, she's the public face now. I handle the back end, the restructuring. It works better that way." "Because you don't like being in the spotlight," Serena guessed. His eyes met hers. "Because I don't like pretending everything's fine when it's not." The honesty in his voice touched something in Serena. For a moment, neither spoke, just looking at each other across the table. The spell was broken by Mrs. Peterson entering with a message for Damian. He excused himself to take a call, and Serena returned to her cleaning duties, her mind spinning with the conversation they'd just had. For the rest of the afternoon, she cleaned the downstairs areas, occasionally catching glimpses of Damian on the phone or working at his laptop. Each time their eyes met, she felt a strange connection, as if they were both surprised to find understanding in such an unlikely place. At the end of the day, Damian again walked her to the door. "Same time next week?" he asked, handing her an envelope. "Actually, I think Mom will be back by then," Serena said, ignoring the twinge of disappointment she felt. "I see," he hesitated. "Serena, I was wondering if you might... That is, I have tickets to a symphony performance on Sunday. Mozart. I remember you mentioned you studied piano as a child." Serena stared at him, her heart suddenly racing. "Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Hartford?" "Damian," he corrected. "And yes, I suppose I am. Unless that's completely inappropriate?" It was completely inappropriate. She was the maid's daughter. He was her mother's employer. They came from different worlds. "I can't," she said finally. "I appreciate the offer, but it wouldn't be right." Disappointment flashed across his face, quickly masked. "Of course, I understand. It's not that I don't want to," Serena found herself adding. "It's just complicated. Life usually is." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Good luck with your studies, Serena." As she walked down the driveway, Serena fought the urge to look back. This was for the best. Her mother was right. Men like Damian Hartford didn't belong in her world, and she didn't belong in his. But as the bus pulled away from the estate, she couldn't help feeling that she was leaving something important behind. Gloria was sitting up in bed when Serena got home, looking better than she had in days. "How was it?" she asked, as Serena kicked off her shoes. "Fine, just cleaning." Serena handed her mother the envelope. "He paid the same as last week." Gloria counted the money, her eyes widening. "This is too much, Serena. What's going on?" "Nothing. He's just being generous because you're sick." "Damian Hartford isn't generous without reason." Gloria studied her daughter's face. "Did something happen?" Serena sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "He asked me out. To the symphony on Sunday." "Oh, Serena." Gloria's voice was full of concern. "What did you say?" "I said no, of course." Serena stood up, suddenly restless. "I know men like that don't really see girls like me. Not long term." Gloria reached for her daughter's hand. "It's not about worth, baby. You're worth more than any Hartford. It's about worlds that don't mix. I've seen it before, the maid, the gardener, the driver. We're invisible until suddenly we're not. But when the fascination ends, we're the ones left picking up the pieces." Serena nodded, fighting unexpected tears. "I know, Mom, I know." But that night, as she tried to study, all she could think about was Damian's face when she'd refused his invitation. The way his eyes had dimmed, as if he'd expected rejection but had hoped for something else. "You're being ridiculous," she told herself firmly. It was just one lunch, one conversation, but deep down Serena knew it was more than that. In those brief hours at the Hartford mansion, she had glimpsed something in Damian that called to her, a loneliness that matched her own, a desire for something real in a world full of pretense. And despite all her mother's warnings, despite all the reasons it could never work, Serena Walker found herself wishing she had said yes. 3 days had passed since Serena's last visit to the Hartford mansion. 3 days of trying to focus on her classes, on her shifts at the diner, on her mother's improving health. Anything but thoughts of Damian Hartford and his blue eyes. "Order up for table 7, called Jimmy, the short-order cook at Rosie's diner. Serena grabbed the plates of pancakes and bacon, forcing a smile as she approached the table of truckers who had been flirting with her all morning. "Here you go, gentlemen. Anything else I can get you?" "Your phone number would be nice," said one of the men, winking at his friends. "Sorry, fresh out of those," Serena replied with practiced ease. "Enjoy your breakfast." As she turned away, the bell above the door jingled. Serena froze mid-step. Damian Hartford stood in the entrance, looking completely out of place in his tailored coat and polished shoes. His eyes scanned the diner until they found her. "Serena," he said, walking toward her. "I hope I'm not interrupting." She was suddenly very aware of her stained apron and the ketchup smudge on her sleeve. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to talk to you." His voice was low, urgent. "Do you have a break soon?" Marge, the diner manager, appeared beside Serena. "Who's your friend, honey?" "He's not," Serena began, but Damian extended his hand. "Damian Hartford. I'm a friend of the family." Marge's eyes widened at the name. "Hartford? As in Hartford Enterprises?" "The same," Damian said, looking uncomfortable with the recognition. "Well, isn't that something?" Marge turned to Serena. "Take your break, honey. I'll cover your tables." Before Serena could protest, Marge was shooing her toward the back door, whispering, "That man is worth millions. Don't keep him waiting." Reluctantly, Serena led Damian to the small patio behind the diner, where employees took their smoke breaks. The morning air was cool and she hugged herself, wishing she had grabbed her jacket. "Here," Damian said, taking off his coat and draping it over her shoulders. It smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely him. "Thanks," she murmured, then straightened her spine. "What are you doing here, Damian? How did you even find me?" "Your mother mentioned you worked at Rosie's. It wasn't hard to find." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture that seemed at odds with his confident appearance. "I wanted to apologize. For Sunday. I shouldn't have put you in that position." Serena shook her head. "You don't need to apologize. You asked, I said no. End of story." "Is it?" He stepped closer. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you, Serena, about our conversations. About how, for the first time in months, I felt like someone actually saw me. Not the Hartford name, not the scandal, just me." Her heart hammered in her chest. "Damian, we come from different worlds. You know that. I don't care about that. You should. Your world has rules, expectations. What would people say if they knew you were interested in your maid's daughter?" "I don't give a damn what people say." His voice was fierce. "I've spent a year rebuilding what my father destroyed, living under public scrutiny, trying to be the perfect Hartford. But when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe again." Serena looked away, afraid of what he might see in her eyes. "What do you want from me, Damian?" "A chance." He reached for her hand, his touch warm against her skin. "Have dinner with me. Not at the mansion, not somewhere fancy where people might recognize me. Just dinner, somewhere quiet, please." Every rational thought told her to say no. Her mother's warnings echoed in her mind, but the sincerity in his eyes made her hesitate. "One dinner," she said finally, "as friends." The smile that lit up his face was worth the risk. "Tomorrow night, I can pick you up." "I'll meet you," Serena interrupted. "There's a small Italian place on Oak Street. Nothing fancy, but the food is good." Damian nodded. 7 o'clock? 7. She slipped off his coat and handed it back. "I should get back to work." As she turned to leave, he caught her hand again. "Thank you, Serena, for giving me a chance." She smiled despite herself. "Don't make me regret it." Back inside the diner, Marge pounced immediately. "Spill! What's going on with you and Damian Hartford?" "Nothing," Serena insisted, tying her apron back on. "He's my mother's employer. We're just talking." Marge raised an eyebrow. "Honey, men like that don't drive across town to just talk with their maid's daughter. Trust me." The words stung, even though Serena had thought the same thing herself. "I have tables to serve, Marge." For the rest of her shift, Serena tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting to tomorrow night. What was she thinking, agreeing to have dinner with Damian? It could only lead to trouble, to heartache. Yet she couldn't deny the flutter in her stomach when she thought of seeing him again. When Serena got home that evening, Gloria was in the kitchen stirring a pot of gumbo. It was the first time she'd cooked since her back problems began, and Serena took it as a good sign. "You're cooking," Serena said, dropping her bag and giving her mother a gentle hug. "How's your back?" "Much better," Gloria said. "That expensive medicine is working wonders. Another week of rest, and I'll be good as new." Guilt twisted in Serena's stomach. She hadn't told her mother about Damian's visit to the diner, about their dinner plans. "That's great, Mom." Gloria turned, studying her daughter's face. "What's wrong? Something happened at work?" "No, everything's fine." Serena busied herself setting the table, avoiding her mother's eyes. "Serena Walker, I've known you for 25 years. I can tell when something's bothering you." With a sigh, Serena sat down. Damian Hartford came to the diner today. Gloria's spoon clattered against the pot. "What, why?" "To talk to me, to ask me to dinner." "And what did you say?" Gloria's voice was carefully controlled. "I said yes." Serena looked up, meeting her mother's worried gaze. "Just as friends, Mom. One dinner at Marcello's. Nothing fancy, nothing inappropriate." Gloria wiped her hands on a dish towel, her expression troubled. "Baby, I know you think I'm being overprotective, but I've seen this story play out before. Rich men don't cross social lines for just friends." "Maybe Damian is different," Serena argued. "He's not like the people you work for, Mom. He's lonely. His father's scandal, taking over the company. He's carrying so much weight." "So you think you can save him?" Gloria shook her head. "Men like that don't need saving, Serena. And if they do, they have therapists who charge $300 an hour." "It's one dinner," Serena repeated. "I'll be careful, I promise." Gloria sighed, returning to her cooking. "Just remember, baby, when this ends, and it will end, you'll still need to look at yourself in the mirror. Don't lose yourself trying to be what he needs." The warning stayed with Serena as she got ready for bed that night. Was she being naive? Was she setting herself up for heartbreak? But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was Damian's face when he'd said, "For the first time in months, I felt like someone actually saw me." Maybe they were both looking for the same thing. Someone who could see past the surface, past the roles they played, to the person underneath. The next evening, Serena stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear. She didn't own anything fancy, just a few simple dresses, jeans, and tops. Finally, she settled on a navy blue dress she'd worn to her cousin's wedding last year. It was modest but flattering, with short sleeves and a skirt that fell just above her knees. "You look beautiful," Gloria said from the doorway, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. "Thanks, Mom." Serena applied a touch of mascara and lip gloss, her only makeup. "I won't be late." "I know." Gloria handed her a small can. "Pepper spray, just in case." "Mom," Serena laughed, "I'm having dinner with Damian, not walking through a dark alley. Humor me." Gloria pressed the can into her hand. "And call if you need me, for anything." Serena tucked the pepper spray into her purse, more to ease her mother's mind than out of any real concern. "I will. I love you." "Love you too, baby." Marcello's was a small, family-owned restaurant tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore on Oak Street. The lighting was dim, the tables covered with red checkered cloths, and the air filled with the scent of garlic and tomato sauce. Serena arrived at 7 on the dot, her stomach fluttering with nerves. She half expected Damian not to show up, for this to be some kind of joke or mistake. But there he was, sitting at a corner table, dressed more casually than she had ever seen him, in dark jeans and a grey sweater that made his eyes look even bluer. He stood when he saw her, his face lighting up. "You came," he said, as if he had been the one worried about being stood up. "I said I would." Serena sat across from him, smoothing her dress nervously. "You look beautiful," Damian said, his eyes warm. "Thank you." She glanced around the restaurant. "Have you been here before?" "No, but I did some research. The reviews are excellent." An older woman approached their table, her smile warm. "Serena, so good to see you, honey. Your usual table, I see." "Hi, Mrs. Marcello. This is my friend Damian." Mrs. Marcello gave Damian an appraising look. "Welcome to our little place. Any friend of Serena's is a friend of ours. Marco," she called to her husband behind the counter. "Bring a bottle of the house red for Serena and her handsome friend." As she bustled away, Damian raised an eyebrow. "You're a regular here?" "Mom and I come every month on payday," Serena smiled. "They make the best chicken parmesan in town." Then that's what I'll have, Damian said, setting aside the menu. The wine arrived and Mrs. Marcello poured 2 glasses before taking their order. As she left, Damian raised his glass. To new beginnings, he said. Serena clinked her glass against his. To new beginnings. The wine was sweet and rich, warming her from the inside. She took a second sip, trying to calm her nerves. So, Damian said, leaning forward slightly, tell me something I don't know about Serena Walker. Like what? Anything. Something not on your resume or in casual conversation. Serena thought for a moment. I can play the piano. Not well, but I took lessons for a few years when I was younger. My grandmother paid for them. She wanted me to have opportunities. Do you still play? Not really. We don't have a piano, and after Grandma died, there wasn't money for lessons. She shrugged. But I loved it. The feeling of creating something beautiful. What else? I'm terrified of birds, she admitted with a laugh. Especially pigeons. They're so unpredictable. Damian smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his usually serious face. I once jumped into a pool fully clothed because my sister told me there was a spider on my back. I was 17. The image of teenage Damian soaking wet and dignified made Serena laugh. I would have paid to see that. Elena has video. She brings it out at family gatherings. So there's a human being under all that Hartford polish, Serena teased. Barely, he replied, his eyes twinkling. What about you? Any embarrassing stories your mother brings out to humiliate you? The conversation flowed easily after that, jumping from childhood memories to favorite books to the worst movies they'd ever seen. By the time their food arrived, Serena had forgotten to be nervous. She had forgotten the differences in their backgrounds, the complications of their connection. She was just enjoying being with him. This is incredible, Damian said, taking a bite of chicken parmesan. How have I never been here before? Most billionaires don't frequent family restaurants in this part of town, Serena pointed out. Their loss. He took another bite, clearly savoring it. Thank you for suggesting this place. It's perfect. Better than the 5-star restaurants you usually go to. Much better. His eyes met hers. More authentic, like you. The compliment warmed her more than the wine had. I'm not special, Damian. I'm just me. That's exactly what makes you special. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. You don't pretend. You don't want anything from me except, what, conversation? Friendship? Is that so hard to believe? Serena asked, suddenly serious. That I might just enjoy your company. In my experience, yes. Bitterness crept into his voice. Since the scandal broke, since I took over the company, everyone wants something. Money, influence, connections. Even the women I date seem more interested in being seen with a Hartford than in knowing me. That sounds lonely, Serena said softly. It is. His fingers found hers again, this time holding on. Until I met you. The moment stretched between them, charged with something more than friendship. Serena felt herself drawn to him, to the vulnerability in his eyes, the warmth of his touch. Mrs. Marcello's arrival with dessert broke the spell. Tiramisu for my favorite customers, she announced, setting down 2 plates. On the house. Thank you, Damian said, reluctantly letting go of Serena's hand. As they ate the rich, coffee-flavored dessert, the conversation turned to Serena's studies. I have a big exam next week, she said. Child psychology, it's fascinating, but so much information to absorb. I could help you study, Damian offered. I majored in psychology before switching to business. You did? Why the change? A shadow crossed his face. My father insisted, said psychology was a waste of a Hartford brain. But you loved it, Serena guessed. I did. He smiled ruefully. I wanted to understand people, what drives them, what heals them. Maybe because I never quite understood my own family. It's not too late to go back, Serena suggested. You could take classes, maybe even practice someday. Damian shook his head. The company needs me. After what my father did, I have a responsibility to make things right. Even if it means giving up what you love? He looked at her thoughtfully. Sometimes we make sacrifices for the people who depend on us. You understand that better than most, I think. Serena nodded, thinking of her own dreams deferred while she cared for her mother. But there has to be balance, room for dreams alongside responsibility. Maybe, Damian said, his voice soft, maybe that's what I'm trying to find. As the evening drew to a close, Serena found herself reluctant to leave. She had expected awkwardness, perhaps condescension, or attempts to impress her. Instead, she had found genuine connection, comfortable silence, and shared laughter. When the bill came, Damian insisted on paying despite Serena's protests. "Please," he said, "let me do this one thing." Outside the restaurant, the night air was cool. Streetlights cast a golden glow over the sidewalk, and distant traffic created a gentle hum. "I'll walk you to your car," Damian said. "I took the bus," Serena admitted. "The stop is just around the corner." "The bus? At this hour?" He frowned. "Let me drive you home." "That's not necessary," she began, but he touched her arm gently. "Please, Serena, it would make me feel better knowing you got home safely." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, thank you." His car was parked down the block, a sleek, black luxury sedan that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. Damian opened the passenger door for her, and she slid onto buttery leather seats. "Nice car," she murmured, feeling suddenly out of place in her simple dress. Damian shrugged as he got behind the wheel. "It's just transportation." Easy for him to say, Serena thought, but she kept quiet as he pulled away from the curb, following her directions to her apartment complex in the east side of Mobile. They drove in comfortable silence for a while before Damian spoke. "Thank you for tonight, Serena. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed myself so much." "I had a good time too," she admitted. "You're not what I expected, Damian Hartford." "What did you expect?" "Someone cold, entitled, focused only on business and money." He laughed softly. "That sounds more like my father than me, though some days I worry I'm becoming more like him than I want to admit." "I don't see that in you," Serena said honestly. "I see someone who cares, who takes responsibility, who sees people, not just profit margins." Damian glanced at her, his expression softening. "You see the best in people, don't you?" "I try to." "The world's hard enough without assuming the worst." As they approached her apartment complex, Serena felt a twinge of embarrassment. The buildings were old, the paint peeling in places. Nothing like the luxury Damian was used to. "It's the third building on the right," she said, pointing. "You can drop me at the entrance." Damian pulled up to the curb, but didn't unlock the doors immediately. "Serena, I'd like to see you again. Not as your mother's employer, not as just friends. I'd like to take you on a proper date." Her heart raced. "Damian, I don't think—" "If you're not interested, just say so. I'll understand." His voice was gentle but direct. "But if you are, if you felt even a fraction of what I felt tonight, please don't let our different backgrounds stop you." Serena looked at him, at the hope and vulnerability in his blue eyes. She thought of her mother's warnings, of all the reasons this was a bad idea. But she also thought of how right it had felt to talk with him, to laugh with him, to simply be with him. "One date," she said finally, "a proper one." His smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. "When can I see you again?" "I'm busy with classes and work until the weekend." "Saturday." "Saturday is perfect." He reached for her hand, bringing it to his lips in a gesture that seemed both old-fashioned and intimate. "I'll call you, if that's okay?" Serena nodded, too flustered by the feel of his lips on her skin to speak. She quickly scribbled her number on a receipt from her purse. "Good night, Damian," she said, opening the car door. "Good night, Serena. Sweet dreams." She watched his car pull away, her hand still tingling where his lips had touched it. What was she doing? This wasn't just crossing social lines. It was erasing them completely. Yet as she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Serena couldn't bring herself to regret saying yes. For the first time in years, she felt something other than duty and responsibility. She felt alive, seen, valued for herself, rather than what she could do for others. Gloria was asleep when Serena entered the apartment, for which she was grateful. She wasn't ready to face her mother's concerns, her warnings about men like Damian Hartford. As she got ready for bed, Serena's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for a perfect evening. I'm already counting the hours until Saturday." "D?" Serena smiled, typing back, "Me too. Good night." She fell asleep with the phone clutched in her hand, dreaming of blue eyes and gentle smiles. Damian drove home slowly, his mind filled with thoughts of Serena. The evening had been perfect, better than he had dared to hope. There was something about her that calmed the restlessness inside him, that made him feel understood for the first time since his mother died. As he pulled into the driveway of the Hartford mansion, his phone rang. Eleanor's name flashed on the screen. "Hello, sister," he answered, unable to keep the happiness from his voice. "You sound cheerful," Elena remarked. "Had a good night?" "The best in a long time." "Care to elaborate? Mrs. Peterson mentioned you went out for dinner." "Not a business meeting, I assume." Damian hesitated. Elena was his closest ally, the only person who had stood by him unquestioningly through the scandal and its aftermath. But he wasn't ready to share Serena with anyone yet, not even his sister. "Just needed a break," he said. "What's up?" Elena sighed. "The charity gala is tomorrow night. Please tell me you're coming." "Elena, Damian, you promised. The hospital wing is being named after Mom. You have to be there." Guilt washed over him. The Catherine Hartford Memorial Wing at Mobile General Hospital had been his mother's last project before her illness. She had raised millions for pediatric cancer research, determined to help other families avoid the pain hers had suffered. "I'll be there," he said finally, "but I'm not making any speeches. Just show up in a tux and smile for the cameras. That's all I ask." Relief colored her voice. "And maybe bring a date. Rebecca's been asking about you." Damian frowned. Rebecca Winters, the fashion designer his sister had been trying to set him up with for months. Beautiful, connected, perfect on paper, and completely wrong for him. "I'll be there alone," he said firmly. "See you tomorrow, Elena." As he entered the mansion, Damian found himself comparing it to Serena's modest apartment building. The marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and priceless artwork suddenly seemed cold, impersonal. Had this place ever felt like a home? In his study, he poured himself a small whiskey and stood by the window, looking out at the moonlit bay. He thought of Serena's face when she'd talked about her dreams of teaching, the passion in her voice when she'd spoken of making a difference in children's lives. She was so different from the women in his social circle, genuine, unguarded, without agenda. She saw him, not the Hartford name or fortune, and that was becoming increasingly precious to him. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister. "Wear the blue tie tomorrow, it brings out your eyes." Damian smiled wryly. Elena had been trying to manage his life since they were children, always with the best intentions. She believed in the Hartford legacy, in maintaining appearances, in playing the game of high society. He had gone along with it because it was easier than fighting, because someone needed to restore the family name after their father's disgrace. But tonight, sitting across from Serena in that simple restaurant, he had felt more like himself than he had in years, and he wasn't sure he could go back to being the person his family and company expected him to be. Saturday couldn't come soon enough. The next day, Serena woke with a smile on her face, her dreams still lingering, dreams of Damian, of conversation that flowed like water, of the way his eyes had softened when he looked at her. "Someone's in a good mood," Gloria commented as Serena hummed while making coffee. "I take it dinner went well." "It was nice," Serena said carefully. "Damian is not what I expected." Gloria studied her daughter's face. "You like him?" It wasn't a question, but Serena answered anyway. "I do. He's thoughtful and kind, and when he talks about his family, about the company, he carries so much responsibility, Mom, but he never complains." "Serena," Gloria began, her expression worried. "I know what you're going to say," Serena interrupted gently, "that I'm being naive, that men like him don't end up with women like me. But can't we just see where it goes? He asked me out again, for Saturday." Gloria sighed. "And you said yes." "I did." "Oh, baby." Gloria reached for her daughter's hand. "Just be careful. Guard your heart. That's all I ask." Serena squeezed her mother's hand. "I will, Mom. I promise." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Serena had classes in the morning, followed by a shift at the diner. Damian texted her twice, once to wish her a good day, and once to ask if she liked Italian food. She replied to both messages with a smile on her face, ignoring Marge's knowing looks. That evening, she was studying at the kitchen table when the local news caught her attention. The TV was showing live coverage of a charity gala at the Mobile Convention Center. "And here comes Damian Hartford, CEO of Hartford Enterprises," the reporter was saying. "Mr. Hartford has been notably absent from the social scene since taking over the company last year after his father's legal troubles." Serena's heart skipped as the camera showed Damian stepping out of a limousine, looking devastatingly handsome in a tuxedo. At his side was a stunning blonde woman in a silver gown, her hand tucked in the crook of his arm. "Mr. Hartford is accompanied by fashion designer Rebecca Winters," the reporter continued. "The pair have been rumored to be dating for months, though neither has confirmed the relationship." The camera zoomed in as Damian leaned down to say something to Rebecca, who laughed and placed her hand on his chest in a familiar gesture. Serena felt as if someone had thrown cold water over her. She quickly turned off the TV, her hands shaking slightly. "What's wrong?" Gloria asked, entering the kitchen. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Nothing," Serena said, gathering her books. "Just tired. I think I'll go to bed early." In her room, she stared at her phone, at the last text from Damian. Had she misread everything? Was dinner just a diversion for him? Something different to pass the time? The phone buzzed in her hand, Damian's name appearing on the screen. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. "Hello?" she said, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Serena," he sounded relieved. "I was afraid you might be asleep already." "No, I'm up, studying." She paused. "Shouldn't you be at your charity gala?" There was a moment of silence. "You saw the news coverage?" "I did. You and Rebecca Winters make a lovely couple." "Serena, it's not what you think." Damian's voice was earnest. "Rebecca is a family friend. Eleanor asked her to accompany me because I refused to bring a date. You don't owe me an explanation, Damian. We had one dinner." "It meant more than that to me," he said quietly. "I snuck out to call you because I couldn't stop thinking about you, even surrounded by all this." Despite herself, Serena felt her anger softening. "Where are you now?" "Hiding in a service corridor," he admitted, and she could hear the smile in his voice, like a teenager avoiding a school dance. The image made her laugh. "Very dignified, Mr. Hartford." "I miss your laugh," he said. "I know we just saw each other yesterday, but I miss you, Serena." Her heart melted a little. "I miss you too," she confessed. "I have to go back in there and make small talk with people I barely know, but I wanted to hear your voice first." He paused. "Saturday still on?" "Yes," Serena said, unable to resist the sincerity in his voice. "Saturday still on?" "Good. Sweet dreams, Serena." "Good night, Damian." After hanging up, Serena lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She was in dangerous territory, falling for a man from a world so different from her own. A man who attended charity galas with beautiful women on his arm, who lived in a mansion and ran a multinational corporation. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was Damian in that simple Italian restaurant, laughing about jumping into a pool to escape a spider, looking at her as if she was the only person in the room. Her mother was right. She needed to guard her heart. But Serena was beginning to fear it might already be too late for that. The week crawled by. Serena threw herself into her studies, determined not to spend every moment thinking about Damian. But his texts came regularly, thoughtful questions about her day, links to articles about education he thought she might enjoy, even a photo of a pigeon outside his office window with the caption, "Your nemesis sends his regards." Each message made her smile. Each response brought them closer. By Friday, she was counting the hours until their date. "He's picking you up here?" Gloria asked as Serena tried on outfit after outfit, discarding each as not quite right. "Yes. Is that okay? I know you have concerns, but I'd like you to meet him, Mom, to see what I see in him." Gloria sighed. "I hope you know what you're doing, baby." "I don't," Serena admitted, "but I'm trying to be brave, to follow my heart for once instead of just being practical." Her mother's expression softened. "You deserve happiness, Serena. I just don't want to see you hurt." "I know, Mom." Serena hugged her, inhaling the familiar scent of cocoa butter and cinnamon. "But some things are worth the risk." Saturday arrived at last. Damian had been mysterious about their plans, telling Serena only to dress casual but nice. She finally settled on a simple sundress in soft yellow, her favorite color, though she rarely wore it. At exactly 6 o'clock, there was a knock at the apartment door. Serena's heart raced as Gloria went to answer it. Damian stood in the hallway, holding a bouquet of daisies. He wore khaki pants and a blue button-down shirt that matched his eyes, looking more relaxed than Serena had ever seen him. "Mr. Hartford," Gloria said, her voice carefully neutral. "Please come in." "Mrs. Walker," Damian extended his hand. "It's good to finally meet you properly. And please, call me Damian." Gloria shook his hand, her expression softening slightly at his genuine tone. "Thank you for the extra money these past weeks. It helped with my medical bills." "Your daughter did the work," Damian said. "She deserves the credit." Serena appeared from her bedroom, her heart skipping at the way Damian's eyes lit up when he saw her. "You look beautiful," he said, handing her the flowers. "Daisies. You mentioned they were your favorite. Thank you." Serena inhaled their sweet scent. "They're perfect." Gloria watched the exchange, her expression thoughtful. "What are your plans for tonight?" "I thought we'd start with dinner at the pier," Damian said. "Then there's a small jazz festival in the park, if that sounds good to Serena." "It sounds wonderful," Serena replied, putting the flowers in water. "I'll have her home by 11, Mrs. Walker," Damian promised. "See that you do," Gloria said, but there was a hint of a smile on her face. "And Damian, take care of my girl." "I will," he said, his voice serious. "You have my word." Outside, Serena was surprised to see not the luxury sedan from their previous date, but a more modest car, still nice but not ostentatiously expensive. "I thought we'd blend in better," Damian explained, opening the door for her. "Tonight isn't about Damian Hartford, CEO, it's just about us." As they drove toward the pier, Serena studied his profile, the strong jaw, the slight tension around his eyes that seemed to ease the further they got from the mansion. "Thank you for the flowers," she said, "and for being so nice to my mum." "She's important to you," Damian replied simply, "and I meant what I said. I'll have you home by 11, safe and sound." Serena smiled. "My mother thinks you're going to break my heart." He glanced at her, his expression serious. "And what do you think?" "I think I'm willing to find out." The pier was aglow with string lights that reflected off the water like fallen stars. Couples strolled hand in hand, and the scent of seafood and salt air filled the evening breeze. Damian and Serena sat at a small table at the Crab Shack, a casual seafood restaurant with plastic tablecloths and paper napkins. "I hope this is okay," Damian said, looking slightly nervous. "The online reviews said it has the best crab cakes in Mobile." "It's perfect," Serena assured him, touched by his effort to choose somewhere she would feel comfortable. "I love this place. Mom and I come here on special occasions." Relief washed over his face. "Good. I was worried you might be expecting something more upscale." "Damian, I work at a diner. My idea of fancy dining is when they bring the food to your table instead of calling your number." He laughed, the sound warming her heart. "Fair point. Though I should warn you, I've never eaten crab with my hands before." Serena's eyes widened. "Never? How is that possible?" Hartford family dinners were formal affairs. Multiple forks, crystal glasses, the works. He grimaced at the memory. "My father believed etiquette separated our kind from everyone else." "Well, tonight you're with everyone else," Serena said, picking up a menu. "And here, we get our hands dirty." Their food arrived quickly. Platters of steamed crabs, corn on the cob, and hush puppies. Serena demonstrated how to crack the shells and extract the sweet meat, laughing as Damian fumbled with his first attempt. "It's harder than it looks," he protested, crab juice running down his wrist. "You'll get the hang of it." She handed him a napkin. So much for Hartford dignity. "Overrated," he said, successfully extracting a piece of crab meat and popping it into his mouth. "Oh, that's good." They ate and talked, the conversation flowing as easily as it had at Marcello's. Damian told her about the charity gala, rolling his eyes at the social politics and forced smiles. "The only good part was the money raised," he said. $5 million for the new hospital wing. My mother would have been proud." "Tell me about her," Serena said, noticing how his expression softened whenever he mentioned his mother. "Catherine Hartford," Damian said, his voice warm with memory. "She was nothing like what you'd expect from a wealthy socialite. She volunteered at literacy programs, spent hours reading to kids at the hospital. She had this laugh, big and uninhibited, that used to drive my father crazy at formal events. She sounds wonderful." She was. His eyes grew distant. "After she was diagnosed, she made me promise to live a life that mattered, not just to make money or uphold the family name, but to make a difference." He shook his head. "I'm not sure I've kept that promise." Serena reached across the table, touching his hand. "You're rebuilding your company with integrity. That matters. Sometimes it doesn't feel like enough." He turned his hand, linking his fingers with hers. "What about your father? You mentioned he left when you were younger." Serena tensed slightly, but Damian's genuine interest made her willing to share. "He walked out when I was 15, said he felt trapped by family life. Last I heard, he was in Texas with his new wife and kids." "I'm sorry," Damian said, his thumb stroking the back of her hand. "That must have been hard on you and your mum." "It was. We struggled financially, emotionally." She looked out at the water, remembering those difficult years. "But we survived. Mum took on extra cleaning jobs. I started working after school. We learned to depend on each other." "You're incredibly strong, Serena." The admiration in his voice was unmistakable. "Both of you. We did what we had to do." She smiled, bringing the conversation back to lighter ground. "Now are you ready for dessert? They make a key lime pie that's worth every calorie." After dinner they walked along the pier, the evening air cool enough that Serena shivered slightly. Without a word, Damian slipped off his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. "Thank you," she said, breathing in his scent that lingered on the fabric. "Better?" His hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Much." Serena leaned slightly against him as they walked. "So what's next on this mystery date?" "The jazz festival in Bienville Square. It's the last night." He glanced at her. "Unless you'd rather do something else?" No, that sounds perfect. I love jazz. They drove to the park, where a small stage had been set up, and people sat on blankets and folding chairs enjoying the music. Damian produced a blanket from the trunk of his car and found a spot under an old oak tree. "You came prepared," Serena remarked as they settled on the blanket. "I wanted everything to be perfect." He looked at her in the soft glow of the park lights. "You deserve perfect, Serena." Her heart fluttered at the sincerity in his voice. On the stage, a quartet began playing a slow, romantic tune, the saxophone weaving a soulful melody. "Dance with me?" Damian stood, offering his hand. "Here?" Serena looked around at the other couples, some swaying to the music near the stage. "Here?" His eyes held hers, unwavering. She took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. They moved to an open space near their blanket, and Damian's arm slipped around her waist, drawing her close. Her hand rested on his shoulder, their other hands clasped together. They began to move with the music, a slow, intimate dance. "I haven't danced in years," Serena admitted, following his lead. "You're a natural," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. She relaxed into his embrace, their bodies moving as one. The world around them seemed to fade away. The other couples, the park, even the music became background to the rhythm of their hearts beating close together. "Serena," Damian whispered, his voice low and intimate. "I need to tell you something." She looked up at him, caught by the intensity in his blue eyes. "What is it?" He stopped dancing, though his arms remained around her. "I'm falling for you, faster and harder than I ever thought possible, and it terrifies me." Serena's breath caught in her throat. "Why does it terrify you?" "Because you're becoming important to me. Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself again. Not the Hartford heir, not the CEO cleaning up his father's mess, just Damian." His hand came up to touch her cheek. "And I'm afraid that once you truly see all of me, the responsibilities, the expectations, the life I have to lead, you'll walk away." "Damian," she said softly, her hand covering his. "I'm scared too. Scared that this is just a moment for you, a brief escape from your real life, that one day you'll wake up and realize that a girl from the East Side who cleans houses and serves coffee isn't enough for your world." "You are more than enough," he said fiercely. "You're everything I never knew I needed." Before she could respond, he lowered his head and kissed her. His lips were gentle at first, a question more than a demand. Serena answered by rising on her toes, her arms sliding around his neck as the kiss deepened. Time seemed to stop as they stood there under the oak tree, wrapped in each other's arms. When they finally broke apart, Serena felt dizzy, her heart racing. "I've wanted to do that since the first time I saw you in my library," Damian admitted, his forehead resting against hers. "Why didn't you?" she asked, breathless. "Because I knew once I kissed you, there would be no going back." His thumb traced her lower lip. "And I was right." The sound of applause brought them back to reality. The song had ended, and the band leader was announcing a short break. Damian reluctantly stepped back, but kept hold of her hand. "Come with me," he said. "There's somewhere I want to show you." They gathered their blanket and walked through the park to a small, secluded garden hidden behind a row of azalea bushes. A stone bench sat beneath a trellis covered in climbing roses, their fragrance sweet in the night air. "How did you know about this place?" Serena asked as they sat on the bench. "I used to come here with my mother," Damian said, his voice soft with memory. "She loved gardens, said they were proof that beauty could grow anywhere, even in the smallest forgotten spaces." Serena leaned against his shoulder. "She sounds wise." She was. He put his arm around her, drawing her close. "She would have loved you." "You think so?" "I know so." She valued authenticity above all else. "It's what I love about you too." The word hung between them, love, neither acknowledging it directly, both feeling its weight. "Damian," Serena said after a moment, "where is this going?" "Us, I mean. We come from such different worlds." He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I don't have all the answers, Serena. I just know that when I'm with you, everything else makes sense. The world isn't divided into your side and my side. It's just us together. But practically speaking, we take it one day at a time," he interrupted gently. "We get to know each other. We figure it out together. All I'm asking is for a chance, for us to see where this leads without worrying about what anyone else thinks." Serena studied his face, the earnestness in his eyes, the vulnerability beneath his confident exterior. "Okay," she said finally. "One day at a time." His smile was worth every doubt, every fear. He leaned in to kiss her again, a promise sealed with the touch of his lips. The rest of the evening passed in a dream. More music, more dancing, quiet conversations punctuated by laughter and tender touches. By the time Damian drove her home, Serena felt as though she was floating, her heart full to bursting. True to his word, he had her at her apartment door by 11. "I'd like to see you again," he said, holding both her hands in his. "Tomorrow I could pick you up after your shift at the diner." "I'd like that," Serena replied, unable to stop smiling. "Thank you for tonight, Damian. It was perfect." "No," he said, kissing her softly. "Thank you for giving me a chance, for seeing me, not just the Hartford name." As she watched him walk back to his car, Serena touched her lips, still warm from his kiss. She was falling for him, quickly, deeply, irrevocably. And for tonight, at least, she didn't care about the differences in their worlds or the obstacles they might face. Tonight, she was just a woman falling in love with a man who saw her for exactly who she was. Gloria was waiting up when Serena entered the apartment, a knowing look on her face as she took in her daughter's flushed cheeks and bright eyes. "Good night?" she asked, setting aside her magazine. "The best," Serena admitted, sinking onto the couch beside her mother. "Oh, Mom, he's wonderful." Gloria studied her daughter's face. "You're falling for him." "I think I already have," Serena sighed, leaning her head on her mother's shoulder. "Is that crazy? We've only known each other for a couple of weeks." "The heart knows what it knows," Gloria said, stroking Serena's hair. "But baby, I still worry. Not because he's rich or because you're not good enough. You're worth more than all the Hartfords put together. I worry because your worlds are so different, and that puts pressure on relationships that most can't survive." "We're taking it one day at a time," Serena said, repeating Damian's words. "Getting to know each other without expectations." Gloria nodded, unconvinced but unwilling to dampen her daughter's happiness. "He seemed sincere when he was here, different from what I expected." "He is different." Serena sat up, eager to make her mother understand. "He carries so much responsibility, Mum. His father's mistakes, his mother's legacy, the family business. But underneath all that, he's just a man trying to do what's right, to find some happiness along the way. Just be careful, baby. Guard your heart." "I'm trying, Mum, but I think it might be too late for that." That night, Serena lay awake, replaying every moment of the evening in her mind. The taste of Damian's lips, the security of his arms around her, the vulnerability in his eyes when he'd said he was falling for her. Her phone buzzed with a text message. "I just got home and already miss you. Sweet dreams, beautiful. D." She hugged the phone to her chest, a smile on her face as she drifted off to sleep. Sunday dawned bright and clear. Serena had a breakfast shift at the diner, her feet barely touching the ground as she served plates of pancakes and eggs to the regular customers. "Someone's in a good mood," Marge commented, watching Serena hum as she refilled coffee cups. "That Hartford boy treat you right last night?" "He did," Serena admitted, unable to hide her smile. "He's picking me up after my shift today." Well, Marge raised an eyebrow. "Moving fast, aren't you?" Before Serena could respond, the bell above the door jingled. She turned, expecting to see the usual Sunday morning crowd, but instead found herself looking at a tall, elegant woman with auburn hair and familiar blue eyes. "Table for one, please," the woman said to Marge, her gaze flicking around the diner with interest. "Right this way, Mum." Marge led her to a booth by the window. "Serena will be your server today." Serena approached the table, suddenly nervous. There was no mistaking the resemblance. This had to be Damian's sister, Elena. What was she doing here? "Good morning," Serena said, handing her a menu. "Can I start you with some coffee?" "Please." Elena studied her openly. "You're Serena Walker, aren't you?" Serena's hand froze on her notepad. "Yes, how did you—" "My brother has mentioned you." Elena's smile was polite but reserved. "Several times, actually. I thought it was time we met." "I see." Serena shifted uncomfortably. "Would you like a few minutes with the menu?" "I'm not really here for the food, Serena." Elena set the menu aside. "I'm here to talk about Damian." "I'm working right now," Serena said, glancing around at her other tables. "I don't think this is the time or place." "Perhaps not, but it's important." Elena's voice was firm but not unkind. "When do you finish your shift?" "At 2. "Perfect. I'll wait." True to her word, Elena Hartford remained in the diner for the next 3 hours, nursing cups of coffee and picking at a slice of pie. She was polite to Serena whenever she approached the table, making small talk about the weather or the quality of the coffee, but her eyes never stopped watching, assessing. By the time Serena's shift ended, her nerves were frayed. She untied her apron and slid into the booth across from Elena. "All right," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. What did you want to talk about? Elena studied her for a moment. My brother is different since he met you. Happier, more like his old self. Is that a problem? Serena asked, confused by Elena's tone. Not necessarily. But Damian isn't just any man, Serena. He's the CEO of Hartford Enterprises. He has responsibilities, obligations. Our family name is still recovering from the scandal. Everything he does is scrutinized, including who he dates, Serena guessed, her heart sinking. Especially that. Elena sighed, her expression softening slightly. Look, I'm not here to threaten you or warn you off. I love my brother, and I want him to be happy. But I also know the world he lives in, the world you would be entering if this relationship continues, and you don't think I belong in that world. I think you would find it challenging, Elena corrected. The scrutiny, the judgment, the constant pressure to behave a certain way, to represent the Hartford name appropriately. It's a lot to ask of anyone, let alone someone who didn't grow up with it. Serena felt a flicker of anger. You don't know me, Miss Hartford. You have no idea what I can handle. You're right, I don't. Elena leaned forward. That's part of why I'm here. I want to understand the woman who has captured my brother's heart, to see if you're prepared for what being with him really means. And what does it mean exactly? It means photographers following you, digging into your past. It means people questioning your motives, suggesting you're after his money. It means charity galas and board meetings, and standing beside him at press conferences while he tries to rebuild our family's reputation. Eleanor's eyes were intense. Are you ready for that, Serena? To have your life turned inside out for the sake of being with Damian? The question hit Serena like a physical blow. Was she ready? Could she handle the scrutiny, the judgment, the complete upheaval of her quiet life? I care about Damian, she said finally. Not his money, not his name. Him, the man who takes the time to listen, who remembers little details, who looks at me like I'm something precious. That's who I'm falling for. Eleanor's expression was unreadable. And if being with that man means sacrificing your privacy, your autonomy, perhaps even your career goals, would you still feel the same? Before Serena could answer, the bell above the door jingled again. Damian stood in the entrance, his eyes quickly finding her, then narrowing as he spotted his sister. Eleanor, he said, his voice tight as he approached their table. What are you doing here? Having coffee, Elena replied smoothly, and getting to know Serena. She's lovely, by the way. Damian's jaw clenched. Can I speak with you outside, please? Elena stood, gathering her purse. Of course. She turned to Serena. Think about what I said, and for what it's worth, I hope you prove me wrong. As the siblings stepped outside, Serena watched through the window. Damian was clearly angry, gesturing emphatically while Elena remained calm, occasionally placing a hand on his arm as if to soothe him. After a few minutes, Elena nodded, kissed her brother's cheek, and walked to a sleek car parked at the curb. Damian returned to the diner, his expression troubled. I'm so sorry about that, he said, sliding into the booth across from Serena. Elena had no right to ambush you at work. She's worried about you, Serena said. I understand that. What did she say to you? His eyes searched hers, concerned. Serena hesitated. She wanted me to understand what being with you really means. The public scrutiny, the expectations. Damian ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I should have told her about us myself, prepared her. But I wanted to keep this, you, to myself for a little while longer, before the rest of the world weighed in. She made some valid points, Damian. Serena reached for his hand across the table. I hadn't really thought about what dating you would mean in practical terms. The photographers, the gossip, the judgment. Does it change things? He asked, a flicker of fear in his eyes. How you feel about us? Serena thought of Elena's questions, of the complications that lay ahead. But then she looked at Damian, at the vulnerability in his eyes, the way he held her hand as if it was something precious. No, she said firmly. It doesn't change how I feel, but we should talk about it. Be realistic about what we're getting into. Relief washed over his face. We can figure it out together. Take it slow, find our way. One day at a time, she agreed, squeezing his hand. Damian smiled, the tension leaving his shoulders. So, are you ready to go? I thought we could drive down to the bay, maybe take a walk on the beach. That sounds perfect. Let me just grab my things. As they left the diner, hand in hand, Serena felt a mixture of emotions. Excitement for the afternoon ahead, happiness at being with Damian, but also a nagging worry that Eleanor's concerns might prove all too real. The beach was peaceful, with few people braving the slightly cool spring air. They walked along the shore, shoes in hand, letting the water lap at their feet. Damian told her about his confrontation with Elena. "She thinks she's protecting me," he explained. "After the scandal, after watching our father's disgrace tear our family apart, she's determined to rebuild the Hartford name, to protect what's left of our legacy. And she sees me as a threat to that," Serena guessed. "She sees you as an unknown factor." Damian stopped walking, turning to face her. "But she doesn't know you like I do. She doesn't see how you make me feel, like I can breathe again, like there's more to life than balance sheets and board meetings." He cupped her face in his hands, his eyes intense. "I'm falling in love with you, Serena Walker, and I don't care what Elena or anyone else thinks about that." Serena's heart soared at his words. "I'm falling in love with you too," she admitted, the truth of it washing over her like the waves at their feet. Damian's kiss was tender, full of promise and passion. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "We'll figure this out. Together." They spent the rest of the afternoon in a bubble of happiness, walking, talking, stopping occasionally to kiss or simply hold each other. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Damian suggested dinner at a small seafood restaurant overlooking the bay. "It's been a perfect day," Serena said as they sat across from each other, the candlelight casting a warm glow on Damian's handsome face. "Thank you." "No, thank you," he replied, reaching for her hand, "for giving us a chance, despite everything." After dinner, Damian drove her home, both reluctant for the day to end. Outside her apartment, he kissed her goodnight, a lingering kiss that left her breathless. "When can I see you again?" he asked, his arms still around her waist. "I have classes tomorrow and Tuesday, and I'm working the late shift at the diner." Serena thought for a moment. "Wednesday." "Wednesday it is." He kissed her once more, a gentle promise. "Sweet dreams, Serena." She watched him drive away, her heart full to bursting. Despite Elena's warnings, despite the complications ahead, Serena couldn't bring herself to regret falling for Damian Hartford. Some things were worth the risk. Monday morning brought reality crashing back. Serena was in her child psychology class when her phone buzzed with a text from Marge. "Check the Mobile Register Society page. Call me ASAP." Concerned, Serena excused herself from class and hurried to the library. She found the newspaper online and clicked on the society section. Her stomach dropped. There on the digital front page was a photo of her and Damian on the beach, his hands cupping her face as they kissed. The headline read, "Hartford heirs new love, from housekeeping to his heart." The article was worse. Damian Hartford, 31, CEO of Hartford Enterprises and son of disgraced financier Richard Hartford, has been spotted with a new lady love, and she's not the socialite or business heiress one might expect. Serena Walker, 25, is the daughter of Gloria Walker, a housekeeper employed by the Hartford family for the past 5 years. Sources close to the family express concern that the relationship is moving too fast and question Ms. Walker's motives. "The Hartford fortune is substantial, despite Richard's legal troubles," says one insider. "It's not surprising that an ambitious young woman might see Damian as her ticket to a better life." Representatives for Hartford Enterprises declined to comment on the CEO's personal life. Serena felt sick. The article went on to detail her background, her job at the diner, her education, even the fact that her father had abandoned the family years ago. They had dug deep, exposing her life for public consumption. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Damian. She answered with shaking hands. "Serena, I just saw the article." His voice was tight with anger. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea they were following us." "How did they find out so much about me?" she asked, her voice small. "Someone talked. Maybe someone at the diner, or..." He hesitated. "Or someone closer to me. Elena knew about us, and so did Mrs. Peterson. Your sister wouldn't..." "I don't know," Damian interrupted, "but I'm going to find out. In the meantime, there might be photographers watching your apartment, the diner, maybe even the community college. I can send a car for you, bring you to the mansion where it's private." "No," Serena said firmly, despite the fear curling in her stomach. "I'm not going to hide, Damian. I haven't done anything wrong." "Of course you haven't," he said quickly. "I just want to protect you from this circus." "I know," she took a deep breath, "but I need to handle this my way. I'll be fine." "Serena, I have to get back to class," she interrupted. "I'll call you later, okay?" After hanging up, Serena sat in the library, trying to process what was happening. Eleanor had warned her about this, the public scrutiny, the invasion of privacy, the questioning of her motives. But the reality was far worse than she had imagined. When she left the campus building after class, a photographer was waiting. The flash of his camera startled her, and she raised a hand to shield her face. "Serena, how long have you been dating Damian Hartford?" he called, snapping more photos. "Is it true you met when you were cleaning his house? What does your mother think about you dating her employer?" Serena hurried to the bus stop, her heart racing. This was real. This was her life now if she stayed with Damian. Constant scrutiny, constant judgment, her every move documented and dissected. By the time she reached her apartment, 3 more photographers were waiting. She pushed past them, ignoring their questions, and rushed inside, locking the door behind her. Gloria was sitting at the kitchen table, the newspaper spread out before her. She looked up as Serena entered, her expression worried. "Oh, baby," she said, standing to embrace her daughter. "Are you okay?" Serena collapsed into her mother's arms, finally letting the tears come. "They're saying I'm after his money, Mom, that I'm using him." "Shh, I know." Gloria stroked her hair. "People can be cruel, especially when they don't understand something." "There were photographers outside," Serena said, pulling back to wipe her eyes. "Following me from school." Gloria's expression hardened. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. This world of his. It's not kind to people like us, Serena. Damian wants to help. He offered to send a car to bring me to the mansion, where you'd be hidden away like some dirty secret." Gloria shook her head. "No, baby. If he cares about you, let him stand up publicly. Let him tell those vultures that you're not something to be ashamed of." "He's not ashamed of me," Serena protested. "He's trying to protect me." "There's a difference between protection and hiding, Serena." Gloria sighed. "I just don't want to see you hurt." "I know, Mom." Serena hugged her again. "I need to think, to figure out what to do." In her room, Serena sat on her bed, staring at her phone. The screen was filled with notifications. Text messages from classmates who had seen the article, missed calls from Marge, and several messages from Damian, each more concerned than the last. Finally, she called him. "Serena," he answered immediately. "Are you okay? Where are you?" "I'm home," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "There were photographers waiting for me after class, and more outside the apartment." "I'm coming to get you," Damian said, his voice tight with anger. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. I should have been more careful." "Damian, wait." Serena took a deep breath. I think we need to slow down, to step back and think about what we're doing." There was a pause, heavy with tension. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that your sister was right. I didn't really understand what being with you would mean. The invasion of privacy, the assumptions, the judgment. It's a lot, Damian." "Serena, please." His voice cracked slightly. "Don't let them win. Don't let them scare you away from me." "I'm not scared," she said, though it wasn't entirely true. "I just need time to think, to decide if this is what I want for my life." "I love you," he said, the words a desperate plea. "I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but I love you, Serena. Please just let me come see you. We can talk about this face to face." Her heart ached at the pain in his voice. "I love you too," she admitted. "That's why this is so hard. But I need some space, Damian. Just a little time to clear my head." After a long pause, he spoke again, his voice resigned. "If that's what you need, I'll respect it. But Serena, please know that I'm not giving up on us. Whatever it takes, whatever you need, I'm here." "Thank you," she whispered, fighting back tears. "I'll call you soon. I promise." After hanging up, Serena curled up on her bed, letting the tears flow freely. She loved Damian, deeply, completely. But was love enough to withstand the storm that came with being part of his world? Could she handle the scrutiny, the judgment, the complete loss of privacy? More importantly, could their relationship survive the pressure, or would it crumble under the weight of expectations and differences? Sleep eluded her that night, her mind filled with doubts and fears. By morning, she had made a decision. She would take a week, 1 week to think, to focus on her classes and work, to consider what a future with Damian would truly mean. She texted him her plan, and he responded with a simple message. "I understand. I'll be waiting, however long it takes. I love you." The week that followed was one of the hardest of Serena's life. The photographers eventually lost interest when she refused to engage, but the whispers followed her everywhere, at school, at the diner, even at the grocery store. People who had never noticed her before suddenly stared, whispering behind their hands. Marge tried to be supportive, but even she couldn't resist asking questions. "Is it true his sister tried to pay you to leave him alone?" she asked one afternoon, repeating the latest rumor. "Of course not," Serena snapped, her patience wearing thin. "Eleanor just wanted to warn me about..." All this? Gloria watched her daughter with worried eyes, offering comfort but never pushing for a decision. Follow your heart, baby, she said, but make sure your eyes are wide open. On the 5th day of her self-imposed separation, Serena was cleaning the apartment when there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find a delivery man holding a large box. "Delivery for Serena Walker," he said, handing her the package. Inside she found a vintage record player, beautiful in its simplicity, and a collection of jazz records. A note was tucked between the albums, written in Damian's elegant hand. "Serena, I'm respecting your need for space, but I couldn't help sending this. Music has always helped me think clearly, and I remembered how much you enjoyed the jazz festival. Each of these albums reminds me of you in some way. Your strength, your grace, your ability to find beauty in simple things. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. All my love, Damian." Tears filled Serena's eyes as she ran her fingers over the record player, a thoughtful gift that showed how well he already knew her. She set up the player in the living room and put on one of the albums, a mellow saxophone piece that reminded her of their dance in the park. As the music filled the apartment, Serena made tea and sat by the window, watching the sunset. The past 5 days had given her perspective, had allowed her to think clearly about what she wanted. She loved Damian, that much was certain. But loving someone meant accepting all of them, including the complications they brought to your life. Could she handle being part of his world? The scrutiny, the gossip, the loss of privacy? More importantly, could she live without him? The past 5 days had shown her how deeply he had embedded himself in her heart. She missed his smile, his voice, the way he listened to her as if every word mattered. The record ended, the room falling silent except for the gentle hiss of the needle. Serena stood, her decision made. She would call Damian tomorrow, ask him to meet her. They would talk, really talk, about what a future together might look like. But first, she needed to speak with Elena Hartford. The next morning, Serena called the number Elena had left with her at the diner. To her surprise, Damian's sister agreed to meet her for coffee at a small cafe downtown. Elena was already seated when Serena arrived, elegant in a simple blouse and slacks that probably cost more than Serena's entire wardrobe. She stood as Serena approached, her expression guarded but not hostile. "Thank you for meeting me," Serena said, sliding into the chair across from her. "I was surprised by your call," Elena admitted, "especially after the unfortunate publicity. That's partly why I wanted to talk to you." Serena met Elena's gaze directly. "I love your brother, and I think he loves me. But before I decide whether to continue our relationship, I need to understand what I'm getting into." Elena raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by Serena's directness. "And you think I can help with that? You've lived in Damian's world your entire life. You understand the pressures, the expectations. I need to know, honestly, if you think someone like me could survive in that world without losing myself." Elena studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "You're not what I expected, Serena Walker. What did you expect? Someone less direct. Most women who show interest in my brother, especially since he took over the company, are either intimidated by our family or calculating in their approach." She paused. "You're neither, it seems. I'm just trying to make the right decision, for both of us." Eleanor nodded slowly. "The Hartford name comes with baggage, expectations, scrutiny, judgment. Since our father's scandal, it's been even worse. Damian has carried the heaviest burden, trying to rebuild the company while maintaining a public face of confidence. He told me he feels trapped sometimes," Serena said, "by the responsibility, the legacy. He does, we both do, in different ways." Eleanor's expression softened. "But since he met you, he's been lighter, more like the brother I grew up with before the scandal changed everything. The article said you were concerned about our relationship, that I might be after his money." Elena had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I didn't say those things, but I did express concern to a friend about how quickly things were moving. I should have been more careful about who I trusted." "So you didn't plant the story?" "No, but I didn't do enough to prevent it either." She looked directly at Serena. "I was worried about Damian, about him getting hurt if this was just a passing fancy for either of you." "It's not," Serena said firmly, "but that doesn't mean it will be easy." "No, it won't be easy," Elena agreed. "There will always be people who judge you based on where you come from, who question your motives. You'll have to attend events where you feel out of place, learn protocols and social cues that come naturally to those who grew up with them. You'll be watched, scrutinized, gossiped about. That sounds exhausting." "It is. Elena's smile was wry. But if you truly love my brother, if he makes you happy, perhaps it's worth it. Serena was surprised by the shift in Elena's tone. You think so? I think Damian deserves happiness. After everything he's sacrificed for our family, for the company, he deserves someone who sees him, not the Hartford name or fortune. She reached across the table, briefly touching Serena's hand. And I think perhaps you might be that person. Thank you, Serena said, genuinely moved. That means a lot. Don't thank me yet, Elena warned. I'm still Damian's sister. If you hurt him, you'll have me to deal with. Serena couldn't help but smile. I'd expect nothing less. As they finished their coffee, Elena gave Serena her private number. If you decide to continue with Damian, call me. There are things I can help you with. How to handle the press, which events are important, who to trust in our circle. You do that for me. For Damian, Elena corrected, but her smile took the sting from her words. And perhaps in time, for you too. They parted with a tentative understanding, not quite friends but no longer adversaries. As Serena walked home, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least she wouldn't be facing it entirely alone. That evening, she called Damian. Serena, he answered on the first ring, hope clear in his voice. How are you? Better, she said honestly. Thank you for the record player. It's beautiful. You're welcome. Did you listen to the albums? I did. They helped me think. She took a deep breath. Damian, can you come over tomorrow? We need to talk. Of course. He paused. Serena, is this... should I be worried? No, she said, smiling despite herself. Just come over around 7. Mom will be at her church group, so we'll have privacy. I'll be there. His voice softened. I've missed you, Serena. I've missed you too. More than I expected to. After hanging up, Serena felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had made her decision. Now she just needed to tell Damian, to see if they could find a way forward together. The next evening, Serena prepared carefully for Damian's visit. She tidied the apartment, put on a simple dress, and set up the record player with one of the jazz albums he had sent. Her mother had left for her church group, with a knowing smile and a gentle reminder to follow your heart but use your head too. At precisely 7 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. Serena opened it to find Damian standing there, looking both hopeful and nervous. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a sweater, and held a small bouquet of daisies. Hi, he said, his eyes drinking her in as if he'd been starving for the sight of her. Hi, she replied, taking the flowers. Come in. He followed her into the apartment, his eyes darting around as if looking for clues to her decision. The record player was spinning, filling the room with soft jazz. How you got it set up? He said, nodding toward the player. It's perfect, Serena said, putting the daisies in water. Thank you. They stood for a moment, awkward in a way they had never been before. Finally, Damian spoke. Serena, before you say anything, I need you to know something. He stepped closer, his eyes intense. These past days without you have been torture. I've realized that none of it, the company, the fortune, the Hartford name, means anything if I can't share it with someone who makes me feel alive. And that's you, Serena. Only you. Her heart raced at his words. Damian, please let me finish. He took her hands in his. I know my world is complicated. I know being with me means dealing with press and gossip and social obligations that might seem foreign to you. But I promise, if you give us a chance, I will be by your side through all of it. We'll face it together. Serena squeezed his hands. I met with Elena yesterday. Surprise flashed across his face. You did? Why? Because I needed to understand what being part of your life would really mean. The good and the bad. She led him to the couch, sitting beside him. These past days have been hard, Damian. Seeing my life dissected in the newspaper, being followed by photographers, hearing the whispers and assumptions. It made me question whether I could handle being with you. Pain flickered in his eyes. And what did you decide? I decided, Serena said, lifting a hand to his cheek, that loving you is worth it. Worth the scrutiny, worth the gossip, worth stepping into a world that might never fully accept me. Hope dawned on his face. You love me? I do. She smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. I love you, Damian Hartford. Not your money, not your name, just you. The man who sees me, who listens, who makes me feel like anything is possible. Damian pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she might disappear. I love you too, Serena, so much it terrifies me. When he kissed her, it was like coming home, a recognition, a belonging that transcended their different worlds. They had found each other against all odds, and neither was willing to let go. "It won't be easy," Serena whispered against his lips. "There will be people who never accept me, who always question why you're with me." "Let them question," Damian said fiercely. "I know why I'm with you, because you're kind and strong and real, because when I'm with you I'm not a Hartford, I'm just Damian, and that's all I've ever wanted to be." They spent the evening talking, planning, dreaming. Damian was honest about the challenges they would face, the social obligations, the press interest, the judgment from both their worlds. But he was equally passionate about the life they could build together, one that balanced duty with dreams, responsibility with joy. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. "Not to the mansion, it's never felt like home anyway. We could find a place together, somewhere that would be ours." "Damian, that's a big step," Serena cautioned. "And what about my mother? I can't just leave her." "She could come too," he suggested. "There could be a separate apartment for her, connected but private. She wouldn't have to work anymore." "She'd never accept that," Serena interrupted. "Mom has her pride, and I have my studies, my plans to teach." Damian nodded, understanding. "You're right. I'm rushing again. But Serena, I want a future with you. Whatever that looks like, however we build it, I want it to be with you." "Me too," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "But let's take it one step at a time. Get used to being together publicly, navigate the press, find our footing as a couple before we make bigger decisions." "Always the voice of reason," he teased, kissing her temple. They talked until Gloria returned home, finding them curled together on the couch, planning their next date. Damian stood to greet her, his arm still around Serena's waist. "Mrs. Walker," he said, his voice respectful, "I wanted to thank you for raising such an incredible daughter. She's made me a better man, and I promise to always treat her with the respect and love she deserves." Gloria studied him, then nodded slowly. "See that you do, Mr. Hartford. My Serena deserves the best." "She does," he agreed, smiling down at Serena, "and I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of her." As Damian prepared to leave, promising to call Serena in the morning, Gloria pulled her daughter aside. "You've made your decision," she observed. "I have, Mom. I love him." Gloria touched her daughter's cheek. "Then I'm happy for you, baby. Just remember who you are, where you come from. Don't let his world change the beautiful person you've always been." "I won't," Serena promised, hugging her mother tightly. "Thank you for understanding." At the door, Damian kissed Serena goodnight, a promise in his eyes. "Tomorrow," he said. "I'll call you first thing." "Tomorrow," she agreed, her heart full. As she closed the door behind him, Serena felt a sense of peace. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with Damian by her side, she was ready to face whatever came their way. They would build a bridge between their worlds, creating something new and beautiful together, one day at a time. 3 months had passed since Serena and Damian decided to face the world together. Spring had given way to summer, bringing hot, humid days to Mobile that made the air feel thick enough to touch. Their relationship had settled into a rhythm, dinner dates twice a week, quiet weekends together, and daily phone calls that often stretched late into the night. Damian had kept his promise to support Serena's studies, rearranging his schedule to accommodate her classes, and never complaining when she needed time to prepare for exams. The press had eventually lost interest in their relationship, moving on to fresher scandals. Occasionally, a photographer would snap their picture at a restaurant or event, but the headlines had grown less sensational, less focused on their different backgrounds. "Hartford heir and girlfriend attend hospital fundraiser," read the latest, accompanying a photo of them at a charity event for the Catherine Hartford Memorial Wing. Serena had worn a simple blue dress, purchased with her own money despite Damian's offers to buy her something special, and had spent the evening by his side, meeting board members and donors with a grace that surprised even herself. "You were amazing tonight," Damian had told her afterward, driving her home. "Everyone loved you." "I was terrified," Serena admitted, "especially when that woman asked where I got my dress and I had to say the mall." Damian had laughed. "Marlene Fisher always asks that question to establish hierarchy. You shut her down perfectly by not caring." It was true. Serena had found that her greatest strength in Damian's world was her authenticity. She didn't pretend to be something she wasn't, didn't try to hide her background or adopt airs, and surprisingly, many people respected that. Eleanor had been particularly helpful, coaching Serena on the social dynamics of high society without trying to change her. "Just be yourself," she had advised, "but know the rules well enough to break them consciously, not accidentally." The two women had developed an unexpected friendship, meeting for coffee regularly to discuss everything from business etiquette to Elena's secret passion for romance novels. Damian often watched their growing bond with a mixture of amusement and relief. Even Gloria had begun to warm to Damian, especially after he arranged for a top orthopedic specialist to examine her back and recommend treatments, all while making it seem like a favor from a hospital board member rather than charity. "He's clever, that one," Gloria had remarked after her pain had decreased significantly under the new treatment plan. "Knows how to help without making a person feel small." Now, on a sweltering Saturday in August, Serena was preparing for a special evening. Damian had been mysterious about his plans, telling her only to dress nice but comfortable, and that he would pick her up at 6. "Maybe he's finally taking you to that French restaurant downtown," Gloria suggested, helping Serena with her hair. "The one where appetizers cost more than a week's groceries." Serena laughed. "He knows I'd be uncomfortable there. Besides, he's been so busy with the new company initiative that we've barely had time for dinner at all this week." Damian had been working on a major project, a foundation to provide educational opportunities for underprivileged youth in Mobile. Inspired by Serena's passion for teaching, he had committed significant resources to scholarships, after-school programs, and teacher training. "It's your influence," Elena had told Serena over coffee the previous week. "Before you, Damian handled philanthropy like a business obligation. Now he's personally involved, passionate about making a difference." The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Damian stood in the hallway, handsome in dark pants and a light blue shirt that matched his eyes. His face lit up when he saw Serena in her simple white sundress, her hair falling in soft curls around her shoulders. "You look beautiful," he said, kissing her gently. "So do you," she replied, touching his freshly shaven cheek. "Very mysterious about our plans tonight." "You'll see soon enough," he greeted Gloria with a warm smile. "Evening, Mrs. Walker. How's the back today?" "Better than it's been in years," Gloria admitted. "That doctor you recommended worked miracles." "I'm glad to hear it." Damian offered his arm to Serena. "Shall we?" Outside, instead of his usual car, a vintage convertible waited at the curb, cherry red with gleaming chrome. "Whose car is this?" Serena asked, running her hand along the smooth paint. "Ours for the night," Damian replied, opening the passenger door. "I thought it suited the occasion." As they drove through the city, the warm evening air tousling Serena's hair, Damian seemed almost nervous, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel, checking his watch, glancing at her when he thought she wasn't looking. "Are you going to tell me where we're going?" Serena asked, curious about his unusual behavior. "It's a surprise." He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "But I think you'll like it." They drove out of the city, following the coastal road that led south. After about 30 minutes, Damian turned onto a narrow lane lined with ancient oak trees draped in Spanish moss. At the end of the lane stood a charming cottage, weathered wood painted pale blue with white trim, surrounded by gardens that tumbled with summer flowers. "What is this place?" Serena asked as Damian parked the car. "My mother's retreat," he said, his voice soft with memory. After she got sick, she wanted somewhere quiet, away from the mansion and the social obligations, somewhere she could just be herself. He led Serena up the shell-lined path to the porch, unlocking the door with an old-fashioned key. Inside, the cottage was simple but beautiful, comfortable furniture, bookshelves lining the walls, large windows that looked out over the bay. "It's lovely," Serena breathed, taking in the peaceful atmosphere. "No one's used it since she died," Damian explained, watching her reaction carefully. "I couldn't bring myself to sell it, but I couldn't come here either. Too many memories." "Why now?" Serena asked, turning to face him. "Because you made me realize something." He took her hands in his. "This place was where my mother was happiest. Not at galas or board meetings or society luncheons, but here, reading books, planting flowers, watching the sunset over the water. She found joy in simplicity, in authenticity, just like you do." He led her through French doors onto a back deck where a table had been set for dinner. Candles flickered in the early evening light, and the view of Mobile Bay stretched before them, the water painted gold and pink by the setting sun. "Did you do all this?" Serena asked, touched by the effort. "I had help," Damian admitted with a smile. "Elena arranged the food, your favorite Italian from Marcello's, and I spent the day cleaning up the place, making sure everything was perfect." "It is perfect," Serena said, leaning up to kiss him. "Thank you for sharing this with me." They ate dinner as the sun set, talking easily about their weeks, their plans, their dreams. Damian told stories about his mother, her love of gardening, her secret habit of swimming in the bay at midnight. her collection of jazz records that had inspired his gift to Serena. "She would have loved you," he said, his eyes warm in the candlelight. "Not just because you make me happy, but because you're exactly the kind of person she valued. Genuine, kind, unimpressed by wealth or status." After dinner, they walked along the beach, the sand still warm beneath their bare feet. The night was clear, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "I've been thinking a lot lately," Damian said, as they reached a small dock that extended into the bay. "About what matters in life, about what makes a person truly happy." "And what have you concluded?" Serena asked, leaning against the railing. "That it's not what I was raised to believe." He stood beside her, looking out at the water. "My father measured success in dollars, in power, in maintaining the Hartford legacy. But my mother, she understood that real success is measured in moments of joy, in connections with people who see the real you." He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "You taught me that, Serena. You reminded me of what my mother tried to show me before she died, that a life filled with love and purpose is worth more than all the wealth in the world." Serena's heart raced at the intensity in his eyes. "Damian, I brought you here tonight because this place represents everything I want our future to be. Authentic, peaceful, built on a foundation of love rather than expectations." He released one of her hands to reach into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. "Which is why I want to ask you something." Serena's breath caught as he knelt before her, opening the box to reveal a ring, a simple but elegant diamond set in white gold, with smaller sapphires on either side. "Serena Walker, I fell in love with you when you were dusting my bookshelves, humming gospel songs and frowning at my neglected family photos. You walked into my life in your mother's shoes, but you've left footprints on my heart that are entirely your own." His voice trembled slightly with emotion. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled Serena's eyes, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Damian, I'll marry you." His smile was radiant as he slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood to pull her into his arms. Their kiss was tender, full of promise and dreams of the future they would build together. "It was my mother's," Damian said when they finally broke apart, nodding toward the ring. "Eleanor helped me find it in the family vault. The sapphires reminded me of your eyes." "It's beautiful," Serena said, looking at the ring that now symbolized their commitment. "But Damian, are you sure? Your world, our world," he corrected gently. "And yes, I'm sure. More sure than I've ever been about anything." He cupped her face in his hands. "I know there will be challenges, people who don't understand or approve, social obligations that sometimes feel suffocating. But we'll face them together, finding our balance between duty and happiness. One day at a time," Serena said, echoing the promise they had made months ago. "Exactly." He kissed her again, then led her back to a porch swing that overlooked the bay. "I have another surprise, actually. 2 surprises. More than a proposal and a beautiful ring?" Serena laughed, curling against his side as they swung gently. "The Foundation Board approved the scholarship program," Damian said, his arm around her shoulders. "Starting next fall, 20 students from low-income families will receive full rides to college, with a focus on education degrees. And we're calling it the Gloria Walker Scholarship Fund." Serena gasped. "Damian, Mom will be... I don't even know what to say." "It was Elena's idea, actually. She said if we're going to be family, we should honor the woman who raised you to be the person I fell in love with." He smiled. "Your mother's decades of hard work and sacrifice made you who you are. That deserves recognition." Tears spilled down Serena's cheeks. "She'll be overwhelmed." "Thank you. There's more," Damian said, his voice growing serious. "I've been thinking about our living situation. I know you're not comfortable moving into the mansion, and honestly, neither am I. It's never felt like home to me." "So what are you thinking?" Serena asked, wiping away her tears. "This place." He gestured to the cottage around them. "It needs some updating, maybe an expansion for when your mother visits, or if our family grows someday. But it could be ours, Serena, a place that belongs to both of us, not just the Hartford heir and his wife, but Damian and Serena." Serena looked around at the cozy cottage, imagining mornings watching the sunrise over the bay, evenings on the porch swing, a life built on love rather than expectations. "It's perfect," she said, her heart full. "A fresh start, but with ties to your mother, to your past." "To our future," Damian corrected, kissing her softly. They stayed at the cottage late into the night, planning their life together. A small wedding on the beach, renovations to make the cottage their own, Serena's teaching career once she finished her degree, Damian's continued work with the foundation while leading Hartford enterprises with a new vision. When they finally drove back to Serena's apartment, the city was quiet, most of Mobile asleep. Gloria was waiting up, despite the late hour, her face lighting up at the sight of the ring on her daughter's finger. "He asked," she said, rising to embrace Serena. "He did," Serena confirmed, happy tears filling her eyes again. "And Mum, wait until you hear what else." As Serena told her mother about the scholarship fund named in her honor, Gloria's stoic facade crumbled. She sat heavily on the couch, tears streaming down her face. "All those years cleaning houses," she whispered. "Working double shifts, coming home with my back screaming. It was all for you, baby, so you could have opportunities I never had." "I know, Mum." Serena knelt before her, taking her work-worn hands. "And now, other kids will have those same opportunities because of you." Gloria looked up at Damian, who stood watching them with damp eyes of his own. "You did this. It seemed fitting," he said simply, "to honor the woman who raised the love of my life, to be the incredible person she is." Gloria stood approaching Damian with a solemn expression. For a moment he looked uncertain, then she pulled him into a fierce hug. "Welcome to the family, son," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Damian returned the embrace, his eyes meeting Serena's over Gloria's shoulder. The love in his gaze made her heart swell. Later, after Damian had gone home with promises to return the next day to celebrate with both of them, Serena sat with her mother at the kitchen table, both women still too excited to sleep. "I never thought I'd see my daughter marrying a Hartford," Gloria admitted, shaking her head in wonder. "Life takes strange turns." "Are you happy for me, Mom?" Serena asked, twisting the ring on her finger. "Really happy? Oh, baby." Gloria reached across the table to take her hand. "I was worried at first, scared you'd lose yourself in his world, that you'd be hurt when the novelty wore off. But that man looks at you like you're the sunrise after the longest night, and more importantly, you haven't changed who you are to fit into his life. You've stayed my Serena, strong and kind and true to yourself." "It won't always be easy," Serena acknowledged. "Marriage never is," Gloria replied with a knowing smile. "But the best ones are worth fighting for, worth compromising for, worth building something new together, brick by brick." Serena nodded, thinking of the cottage by the bay, of the life she and Damian would create there, a bridge between their worlds, a home built on understanding and respect. "Get some sleep, baby," Gloria said, rising from the table. "Tomorrow's going to be busy. I suspect that sister of his will want to start planning the wedding right away." Serena laughed, knowing her mother was right. Elena would probably arrive with color swatches and venue options before noon. In her room, Serena stood by the window, looking out at the night sky. She thought of how far she had come since that first day at the Hartford mansion, when she had borrowed her mother's shoes and stepped into a world she never expected to be part of. Her phone buzzed with a text from Damian. "Just got home. Already missing you. I love you, future Mrs. Hartford. Sweet dreams." Serena smiled, typing back, "I love you too. See you tomorrow, future husband." She climbed into bed, the events of the evening playing through her mind like a beautiful dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was her life, unexpected and challenging, and wonderfully real. The wedding was set for October, when the heat of summer would give way to the gentler warmth of a Gulf Coast autumn. Elena had indeed arrived the day after the proposal with wedding magazines and a professional planner in tow, but Serena had gently insisted on keeping things simple. "Nothing elaborate," she had said firmly, "just family and close friends, on the beach by the cottage." To her credit, Elena had accepted Serena's vision, focusing her considerable organizational skills on making the intimate ceremony perfect, rather than pushing for a society extravaganza. "It's your day," she had conceded. "Besides, the society pages will be disappointed no matter what we do. Might as well give them something genuinely romantic to be disappointed about." The months leading up to the wedding were busy, but joyful. Renovations began on the cottage, with Serena and Damian spending weekends choosing paint colors, furniture, and fixtures. They decided to add a guest house, comfortable but separate, where Gloria could stay whenever she wished. "She'll never agree to stop working entirely," Serena had explained to Damian, "but maybe she'll cut back, spend more time with us, eventually retire. She's as stubborn as her daughter," Damian had replied with a fond smile. Serena had completed her summer courses with excellent grades, putting her on track to graduate the following spring. Damian had been endearingly proud, framing her transcript and displaying it prominently in his office at Hartford Enterprises. "My fiancé, the future teacher," he would tell visitors, his voice warm with pride. The press had naturally caught wind of their engagement, but the coverage had been surprisingly positive. "Hartford heir to wed teacher in training, a modern fairy tale," read one headline, accompanied by a photo of them walking hand in hand along the pier. There had been a few snide comments, of course, gossip columnists questioning Serena's motives or suggesting the relationship wouldn't last, but these voices were increasingly drowned out by those who found their story refreshing, a welcome change from the typical society marriages based on connections and status. Even the Hartford board members had come around, seeing how Damian's relationship with Serena had positively affected both his personal happiness and his leadership of the company. The Education Foundation was garnering excellent press, and Damian's renewed energy had led to several successful initiatives that strengthened the company's recovery from his father's scandal. As the wedding approached, Serena found herself increasingly reflective, often sitting on the porch of the cottage, their cottage, watching the sunset and marveling at the journey that had brought her here. One such evening, a week before the wedding, Damian found her there, a soft smile on her face as she gazed out at the water. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, sitting beside her on the swing. "Just thinking about how much has changed in a few months," Serena replied, leaning against his shoulder. "If someone had told me a year ago that I'd be marrying Damian Hartford in our beach cottage, I would have said they were crazy." "Life has a way of surprising us," Damian agreed, his arm around her. "Usually when we least expect it." "Do you ever worry," Serena asked, voicing a concern that occasionally still haunted her, "that our differences will eventually come between us?" Damian was quiet for a moment, thoughtful rather than dismissive. "I think every couple has differences to navigate. Ours might be more obvious. Backgrounds, experiences, social circles. But what matters is how we handle those differences, whether we see them as obstacles or opportunities to grow together." "When did you get so wise?" Serena teased, looking up at him. "When I fell in love with an extraordinary woman who teaches me something new every day." He kissed her softly. "Besides, I think our differences are our strength. You keep me grounded, connected to what really matters, and maybe I can show you possibilities you might not have considered. Like renovating a cottage instead of building a mansion." Serena laughed. "Exactly. Compromise, but the kind that makes both of us happier than we would have been alone." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. Tomorrow would bring more wedding preparations, more decisions, more steps toward their shared future. But tonight was just for them, a quiet moment of peace before the beautiful chaos to come. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and perfect, with just enough breeze to ruffle the white canopy that had been set up on the beach. White chairs lined a simple aisle of flower petals, leading to an arch decorated with magnolias and blue hydrangeas. In the master bedroom of the newly renovated cottage, Serena sat at the vanity while Eleanor arranged her hair in loose curls adorned with small white flowers. "Nervous?" Eleanor asked, catching Serena's eye in the mirror. "A little," Serena admitted. "Not about marrying Damian, but about everything else. Being a good wife, balancing school and marriage, becoming a Hartford." "You'll still be Serena," Elena reminded her, placing the last flower. "That's who my brother fell in love with. As for being a good wife, just love him, the rest will follow." There was a knock at the door and Gloria entered, tears filling her eyes at the sight of her daughter. "Oh, baby," she whispered, "you look like an angel." Serena stood, smoothing the simple white dress she had chosen, elegant but not extravagant, with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing skirt that would catch the beach breeze. "Don't cry, Mom," she said, embracing Gloria. "You'll make me start." And Elena spent an hour on my makeup. "I'll fix it if needed," Elena promised, tactfully stepping out to give mother and daughter a moment alone. "I have something for you," Gloria said, pulling a small velvet pouch from her pocket. "Something old, to go with your something new and blue." Inside the pouch was a delicate gold locket, tarnished with age. Gloria opened it to reveal a tiny photograph of herself as a young woman, holding baby Serena. "It was your grandmother's," she explained, her voice thick with emotion. "She gave it to me when you were born. Said every Walker woman should have something to pass down, even if we didn't have much else." Tears welled in Serena's eyes as Gloria fastened the locket around her neck. "It's perfect, Mom, thank you. Your grandma would be so proud of you," Gloria said, touching Serena's cheek. "So am I. You stayed true to yourself through all of this. Never lost sight of who you are or where you came from. I never will, Serena promised. There was another knock, and Elena peeked in. It's time, she said softly. Everyone's ready. Serena took a deep breath, linking arms with her mother. Let's go get me married. On the beach, 50 guests waited beneath the canopy, a small gathering by Hartford standards, but perfect for Serena and Damian. Close friends from the diner and Serena's classes sat alongside Hartford board members and Eleanor's society friends. Marge from the diner dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, while Mrs. Peterson, the housekeeper, sat primly in a new dress, looking pleased to be included. At the front, beneath the flower arch, Damian waited with his best friend from college as his best man. He wore a light grey suit with no tie, looking handsome and relaxed, his eyes fixed on the pathway where Serena would appear. When the music began, a string quartet playing a gentle melody, Damian straightened, his heart racing. Eleanor appeared first, elegant in a simple blue dress, smiling at her brother as she took her place as Serena's maid of honor. Then, as the music swelled, Serena appeared on Gloria's arm. Damian's breath caught at the sight of her, radiant in her simple dress, her eyes finding his immediately. The love that passed between them in that moment was palpable, bringing tears to the eyes of even the most stoic guests. Gloria walked her daughter down the aisle of flower petals, her head held high, her expression a mixture of pride and bittersweet joy. At the arch, she placed Serena's hand in Damian's, then stepped back to take her seat in the front row. "You're beautiful," Damian whispered, his eyes never leaving Serena's face. "So are you," she replied, squeezing his hands. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They had written their own vows, promises that acknowledged both the love that had brought them together and the challenges they might face. "Serena," Damian began, his voice steady and sure. "Before I met you, I was going through the motions of life, doing what was expected, fulfilling obligations but never truly living. You walked into my library in your mother's shoes and somehow walked right into my heart." A gentle laugh rippled through the gathering. "I promise to love you through all the seasons of our life together, to support your dreams as fiercely as you've supported mine, to build a home and a family based on respect, understanding, and joy. To remember always that our different paths led us to the same place, this moment, this love, this beginning." Serena blinked back tears as she began her own vows. "Damian, when my mother got sick, I thought I was just filling in for a day, doing what needed to be done. I never expected to meet someone who would see past my worn shoes and borrowed uniform to the person beneath." She smiled up at him, her heart in her eyes. "I promise to stand by you through success and failure, joy and sorrow, to remind you when the world demands too much of what truly matters, to build bridges between our different worlds rather than walls, to love you, Damian Hartford, not for your name or your achievements, but for the good, kind man I see when I look in your eyes." They exchanged rings, Damian's a simple gold band, Serena's a delicate band designed to complement her engagement ring. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Damian pulled Serena into a kiss that promised a lifetime of love, earning cheers and applause from their guests. The reception was held on the expansive deck and lawn of the cottage, with twinkling lights strung in the trees and tables set with simple but elegant decorations. A jazz band played, a nod to their first date at the festival in the park. The food was a mixture of elegant hors d'oeuvres and down-home southern cooking, another bridge between their worlds. As the evening progressed, Serena found herself drawn into conversation after conversation, touched by how many people from both sides of their life together had come to celebrate with them. "Mrs. Hartford," said a deep voice, and Serena turned to find Richard Hartford Sr., Damian's father, standing before her. He had been released from prison 2 weeks earlier, his sentence reduced for good behavior and cooperation with authorities. His presence at the wedding had been a last-minute decision, one that had clearly cost Damian considerable emotional effort. "Mr. Hartford," Serena replied, her voice carefully neutral, "thank you for coming. I'm not sure my son wanted me here," he said, his once imposing frame now thinner, older. "But I needed to see the woman who brought him back to life." Serena studied the man who had caused so much pain, to investors, to the company, but most of all to his own children. "Damian has worked hard to rebuild what was broken," she said finally. "Not just the company, but his life, his sense of purpose." "I know." Something like regret flickered across the older man's face. "He's a better man than I ever was, and I suspect you're a big part of why." Before Serena could respond, Damian appeared at her side, his arm slipping protectively around her waist. "Father," he said, his voice cool but not hostile, "I see you've met my wife." "I have." Richard Sr. looked between them, something softening in his expression. "She's remarkable, Damian. I can see why you love her." "Yes, she is. And yes, I do." Damian's voice warmed as he looked down at Serena. "I won't stay long," Richard Sr. said, seeming to understand he was intruding. "I just wanted to offer my congratulations, and to say I'm proud of you, son, of the man you've become despite my failings." Damian's jaw tightened, years of complicated emotions passing across his face. Finally, he nodded. "Thank you for coming, Father." As Richard Sr. walked away, Serena squeezed Damian's hand. "Are you okay?" "I am." He kissed her forehead. "Because I have you." The moment was interrupted by the band announcing the first dance. Damian led Serena to the center of the deck, taking her in his arms as the soft strains of "What a Wonderful World" filled the evening air. "Happy, Mrs. Hartford?" he asked as they swayed to the music. "Deliriously," she replied, her arms around his neck. "And you, Mr. Hartford?" "More than I ever thought possible." He spun her gently, then pulled her close again. "I keep thinking about that first day. You on the ladder in the library, me steadying you so you wouldn't fall." "I fell anyway," Serena said softly, "just not the way either of us expected." As they danced, the setting sun cast a golden glow over the bay, painting the water and sky in shades of pink and orange. Their guests watched with smiles and a few tears, witnessing a love that had bridged worlds, that had found strength in differences rather than obstacles. Later, as the party continued around them, Damian pulled Serena away for a quiet moment on the beach. They slipped off their shoes, letting the cool sand between their toes as they walked along the water's edge. "I have a surprise for you," Damian said, stopping to face her. "A honeymoon. You've been very mysterious about that," Serena replied, curious. They had agreed to postpone a proper honeymoon until after she graduated in the spring, planning just a short getaway for now. "I thought we'd go to Paris," Damian said, watching her face. "Not for the usual tourist things, though they're wonderful, but because there's a small school there in a working-class neighborhood that's doing remarkable things with early childhood education. I've arranged for you to spend time with their teachers, to see their methods firsthand." Serena stared at him, speechless. You planned an educational component to our honeymoon?" "Part of it," he admitted, suddenly worried he'd made a mistake. "The rest will be just us, romantic dinners, walks along the Seine, all the clichés that are clichés because they're wonderful. But I thought, I know how passionate you are about teaching, about making a difference. And this school is doing exactly what you've talked about, reaching children who might otherwise fall through the cracks." Tears filled Serena's eyes as she wrapped her arms around him. "It's perfect," she whispered against his chest. "Absolutely perfect." Damian held her close, the waves lapping at their feet, the stars beginning to appear overhead. "I love you, Serena Hartford." "I love you too, Damian Hartford." She looked up at him, her heart full of wonder at the journey that had brought them here. "Thank you for seeing me, really seeing me from the very beginning. Thank you for showing me what really matters," he replied, bending to kiss her. As they walked back toward their wedding celebration, hand in hand, Serena thought of her mother's worn shoes that she had borrowed that first day at the Hartford mansion. She had walked in Gloria's shoes, but found her own path, one that had led her to love, to purpose, to a future brighter than she had ever imagined. And with Damian beside her, she knew they would walk that path together, one step at a time, for all the days to come. 5 years later, Serena sat on the porch swing of the cottage, watching the sunset over Mobile Bay. At 30, she had grown into her role as Damian Hartford's wife with grace and confidence, while never losing the authenticity that had drawn him to her in the first place. The Education Foundation had expanded under her guidance, now supporting not only college scholarships, but also early childhood programs in underserved communities. She had completed her teaching degree with honors, and now divided her time between teaching at a local elementary school and directing the Foundation's initiatives. Damian had transformed Hartford Enterprises, shifting its focus toward sustainable development and community investment without sacrificing profitability. Under his leadership, the company had not only recovered from his father's scandal, but had become a model of ethical business practices. "Mommy, look," called a small voice, drawing Serena's attention to the beach, where Damian was helping their 3-year-old daughter, Catherine Gloria Hartford, build a sandcastle. With her father's blue eyes and her mother's determined spirit, Katie was the perfect blend of her parents. confident yet kind, spirited yet thoughtful. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Serena called back, her hand resting on her growing belly where their second child, a boy according to the latest ultrasound, was making his presence known with enthusiastic kicks. Gloria emerged from the guest house, carrying a tray of lemonade. At 60, she had finally retired from cleaning houses, though she still volunteered at the community center 3 days a week, teaching cooking classes and keeping busy, as she put it. "Those two are quite the pair," she remarked, sitting beside Serena and nodding toward Damian and Katie, who were now decorating their sandcastle with shells and feathers. "They are," Serena agreed, smiling as Damian lifted their daughter onto his shoulders, spinning her around as she giggled with delight. Gloria studied her daughter's face. "Happy, baby?" "More than I ever dreamed possible," Serena replied honestly. "We've built something good here, Mom. Something real." "You have," Gloria agreed, her voice soft with pride. "Something that bridges both your worlds without losing what matters from either." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Damian carried a sleepy Katie up from the beach. He settled beside Serena on the swing, their daughter curled between them, her small hand resting protectively on her mother's belly, as if already looking out for her little brother. "Beautiful sunset," Damian remarked, his arm around Serena's shoulders. "Beautiful life," she corrected, leaning into his embrace. They sat together as the first stars appeared, a family built on love that had transcended social barriers, on understanding that had bridged different worlds, on a connection that had begun when a young woman had walked in her mother's shoes and found her own path to happiness. The end.